So I actually have like a planning team and committee with our next meeting tomorrow. So it's always my
Morning and welcome to the August 13th, 2025 Natural Resources Board meeting here in Madison. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to our great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll now call our hybrid meeting. This means we're in person and virtual, and we'll have appearances both here and online throughout the meeting. Call that meeting to order. We have 5 board members present, and one of our board members, Patty Schachner, will be participating virtually today with some of our presenters. I've got a few reminders and some introductory comments before we go to the agenda. One thing I'd like to mention up front, as we finished the last board meeting in June, we mentioned that we'd be seeing everybody in Black River Falls. Obviously, we're in Madison today, and I just want to explain that change very briefly. The department and the board are in uncertain, I guess, financial situations in view of some of the pending decisions and are taking a conservative approach, and the board wants to be part of that. And it costs extra money to take the board out to the field. We believe that it's important, it's very vital, and we look forward to getting back into that again. But until the financial situation's rock solid, we're choosing to be conservative and bring the meeting back to Madison. So thank you for your flexibility and your adjustments. I've got a few other introductory comments. Please turn off phones and any other devices that might interrupt the meeting, and please minimize background noise. Participants online, please make sure you are muted and your video is turned off until your item is announced. Note there's sometimes a delay in our Zoom broadcast, and it's very easy to talk over one another. Our Natural Resource Board meetings are televised live via YouTube. We welcome and thank all viewers for tuning in. Records of our past meetings are available on the DNR website under Natural Resources Board Briefs of Action. Direct public involvement and open, transparent meetings are the foundation for how this board has operated over the last 50 years and how we strive to operate today. Our discussions and decision-making are transparent to all, and public testimony is welcome at every regularly scheduled Natural Resource Board meeting. To ensure fair and equal time for all, please limit your public testimony to 3 minutes per speaker. We have a light system here to remind us all to try and stay on time. So as the lights go from green to yellow to red, your 3 minutes is out, and we'd ask you to bring your comments to a conclusion. I'd like to thank Secretary Karen Yun and your leadership team for your support of the board and your continued commitment to enhance collaboration between the department, the board, and the citizens that we serve. Thanks also to our issue presenters, DNR Information Technology, the Office of Communications, General Counsel, and all support staff who make these meetings possible. Your time is very valuable, and we appreciate your support. I always individually recognize Ashley Bistel, our Natural Resource Board liaison. Ashley's here at the table, and she's your primary point of contact for communications with the board. Ashley provides great administrative support to the board, and we very much appreciate that. Thank you, Ashley. Lastly, I thank all the employees, citizen volunteers, and conservation partners of the Department of Natural Resources for your commitment and tireless work to protect and enhance our natural resources and to serve all citizens of our great state. Board members, any questions or comments? Hearing none, Ashley, please call the roll.
Sure. Patty Schachner,
Present.
Robin Schmidt,
Present.
Rachel Beresa,
Present.
Douglas Cox,
Present.
Jeff Hastings,
Present.
Deb Dasso is absent and excused, and Bill Smith.
Present. And with that, I'd acknowledge that we have a quorum and we can continue on our agenda. Next item on the agenda is Secretary's remarks.
Great.
Karen, you're-
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. I thought I'd just tell you a little bit, as I usually do, some of the highlights of the last month here. I got to meet with the Oneida Chairman Hill and hear a little bit about their remediation and redevelopment work, which I thought was really interesting, and outlined a couple things that we want to work on together. So that was really a good meeting. Rachel, we also got to go to the Wisconsin Farmers Union meeting, and that was really cool, really to meet a lot of the colleagues that you have and that you lead in that group. So it was really appreciative of that. I also got to visit the State Lab of Hygiene, which I don't know if anybody has ever gotten to visit that, but they consider their non-clinical side of the house considers themselves to be the lab of the DNR. So all of the samples that go for testing, whether they're air quality, water quality for nutrients or PFAS or contaminants, are all tested there at the highest levels through standards that the EPA sets. They're a world-class lab here in Wisconsin. Is really incredible amount of work and science that goes on behind the scenes to support the work that we do. Really incredible. And I got to go to the state fair, which was super fun with the governor. Really, we had a cabinet meeting there. We got to go tour the DNR building, which was really neat. There was a lot of fish biologists and wardens and IT and comms and parks. There was a whole history of the 125th 10 or 25 years of the park system. So just like a really neat display that I think the public got to see, and a lot of the public got to see for the first time, how we present ourselves here in the state. I think most people know that the state fair got cut short by a day because of the extreme precipitation and flooding that happened in the area. And I just wanted to let you know that our team was there to support all of those efforts. So our PSRP wardens were out there saving lives. They were out there in boats when our boats were needed to help. Our dam safety team was monitoring the dams. We have a emergency management director, Shane Goss, who doesn't get as much accolade as he should, but he fits right into the administration's work towards serving the public in these really intense times. And we have volunteers from across the agency that are working on damage assessment across the board, from aircraft and other avenues that we're able to help communities like that recover. So really incredible work that happens across the DNR that I think is part of what the state does to help its communities, but I think kind of doesn't get as much accolade as it should. So just really proud of our team. The other thing I'll just mention that I think probably was the most important thing that I did in the last month was I joined my environmental management counterparts, so the directors and other secretaries and commissioners of other states for a fly-in DC. So we met with members of the Interior Environment Appropriations and the full Committee Appropriations Committee in the Senate and the House from Mississippi, Kansas, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Maryland, Virginia. I think that's all the states. But we had someone representing each of those states who are sort of my counterpart or like a state EPA type counterpart to really advocate for the funding that we need. So as I think most people know, particularly our federal funding, a lot of it comes from different agencies, but the majority of it comes from EPA through these state and tribal assistance grants. So every state in the nation gets these, and our environmental management capacities where we operationalize things like the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act come down into the state. And we are the ones that operationalize that mission for the federal government. And it's a partnership where we put in a lot of people, time, and resources as well, but we depend on their resources to actually do the work. So making a real big case for the need for those appropriations so that we can do our work. So in regard to your comment earlier about the financial situation, we've been trying very hard to push for the resources that we need at the federal level. It's getting better step by step between the House mark and the Senate mark, and we're waiting for them to confer over the next couple months, hopefully. And we'll keep an eye on that, but just really appreciate the partnership as we try to save costs so that we can manage through the situation. And I think I'll turn it back to you, Bill.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, it's probably appropriate for a motion.
I'll move.
Doug moves, and that's approval, Doug?
Yes, move for
Okay.
approval of the agenda.
Got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Jeff, second. Any comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Patty. I will try and slow down. Hearing none, motion carries. We have an agenda. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It's a long one, so bear with. Consent agenda. First one is the approval of the brief of action from June 25th, 2025. Item E under consent agenda, acknowledgement of the donation. Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin will donate $20,600 for Spur Lake State Natural Area. Item F, acknowledgement of a donation. Andrew F. Bell, second, restated revocable living trust, donated $34,917, $17,458, $50 of that to the Bureau of Wildlife Management, and a like amount to the Bureau of Natural Heritage Conservation. This donation will be used by Wildlife Management for wetland habitat research and management, and by Natural Heritage Conservation for rare species monitoring and habitat management. Item G, acknowledgement of the donation. Midwest Family Ski Resorts donated a roof replacement to the Sundance Chalet building valued at $76,316.25. This donation will be used to enhance the building's condition, benefiting visitors. And I also would just add on that this location is at the Granite Peak ski area within Rib Mountain State Park up in the Wausau area. Item H, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Peninsula State Park donated $25,000. This donation will be used to replace the parking lots at the White Cedar Nature Center. Subitem I, acknowledgement of donation. The Friends of Peninsula State Park donated seasonal natural resources educator funding valued at $25,060. This donation will be used to pay wages for natural resource educator positions. Subitem J, acknowledgement of donation. The Peninsula Golf Association donated $50,000. This donation will be used to replace the parking lots at Peninsula State Park Golf Course. Subitem K, acknowledgement of donation. The Newport Wilderness Society donated improvements to the Newport Dark Sky Amphitheater and day use area. This donation will be used to allow for improved programs and visitor experiences at the facility. And lastly, subitem L, request the board authorize a preliminary public hearing and comment period for the statement of scope for Board Order WA-1-25 for proposed rules affecting chapters NR 660 to 679 pertaining to hazardous waste record keeping and reporting requirements, Canadian Import-Export Operation Codes, and standards for spent refrigerants being recycled for reuse. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, could we have a motion to approve?
I would move approval and would also like to really sincerely recognize the generosity of individuals and organizations. Again, this month, well over $200,000 of donations to help support the activities that allow us to interact with the public and do our jobs. So,
Thank you, Robin. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Rachel. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Hearing none, motion carries. We have nothing for item 3. We'll move on to item 4, action items. Scope statements. Item 4A, request the board approve the statement of scope for board order WM-6-25 and conditionally approve the public hearing notice and notice of submittal of proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse for proposed rules affecting chapters NR 10, 11, 16, 19, and 45 related to the 2025 Wildlife Management Housekeeping Rule. Scott Carroll, Wildlife Regulation Policy Specialist. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smith, Secretary Young, members of the board. I'm here today with 2 scope statements from wildlife management. The first one, is Chair Smith has mentioned, is our housekeeping rule. So we're currently at the scope statement approval stage. In June, the board approved a preliminary public hearing notice. It was required by the Joint Committee for Review of Administrative Rules. We sought permission at the June meeting from the board. We held that meeting on July 7th, the hearing on July 7th. No members of the public attended or submitted written comments. So we're here today to present the scope after that meeting as required by state law. So this is our semi-regular housekeeping rule, and members of the board might remember a previous housekeeping rule, or this may be your first time. What these rules are is they're essentially a mixture of non-controversial small items that don't really fit anywhere else, that are mostly like clarifying existing code, updating state our code versus changes of federal or state law, or just providing clarification in language where we felt it was appropriate. So there are a variety of non-controversial proposals. It's very hard to explain exactly what these are because there's probably 24 different ones that are not really related, but they fall under this umbrella of like kind of non-controversial stuff. But we wanted to provide some examples of what may be in the rule. So currently, you can harvest an animal that we've collared, but we don't have any method to get that collar back. We would like that collar back. They're expensive. So this would just put in code, acknowledging code that we can request the collar if we need it back, or if we'd like to use it again, if somebody were to harvest a collared animal. And then additionally, we have in our administrative code how and what you need to do when applying for the disabled deer hunt that happens in October. We wanted to simplify the application, what they need to submit, how they need to submit it. So those are just 2 examples. It's very difficult to list all the things that we would like to do. And honestly, as we write this, I'm going to get an email or 2 saying, hey, can you add this into your housekeeping rule? So should we get scope statement approval, I'll begin drafting the rule. And then we anticipate bringing this back to the board for consideration in the winter of 2026, because we would like to have these go into effect for next fall. And that's our housekeeping rule. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a motion.
Also move.
Jeff moves approval. Do we have a second?
I'd say.
Robin seconds. Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And Scott, you're up for 4B also. Request the board approve the statement of scope for board order WM-5-25 and conditionally approve the public hearing notice and notice of submittal of proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse for proposed rules affecting Chapter NR 10 related to beaver management. Once again, Scott Carroll.
Thank you again. So again, we are at scope statement approval of this item as well. Similar to the previous scope statement, we were required to hold a preliminary public hearing on this as well from the Joint Committee Review of Administrative Rules. We sought permission from the board at the May meeting. We held the preliminary public hearing on June 5th. We had 1 person attend for informational purposes. Nobody submitted any written or oral statement at that hearing. So then we're here today to seek permission for the board for moving forward with a scope statement. So in February of this year, our Fur Bear Specialist Sean Rossler came to the board through an informational item to announce that we are beginning the process to update our beaver management plan. And as part of, with many of our management plans, there are items in code that may be needed updating out of that process. So we don't know exactly what might come of it. I don't think we have anything in mind specifically, but we acknowledge that when these discussions happen, a lot of times somebody will come up with, maybe we should adjust this, or maybe we should adjust that. And it does require administrative code change. We want to be ready in case that happens, so that when the plan is presented to the board, we can simultaneously present that accompanying rule change along with the plan. So it's done at the same meeting. So as I said, we don't really have anything specific, but to give you an example of the things in administrative code related to beaver management that are currently found, it's zone boundaries, season dates, and the types of traps that are allowed during the open beaver season. So that's typically what, if there's a change, it might be under that, or it's going to be related to something like that. And they're currently working on, I believe, bringing together the plan committee for the beaver management plan. And they're going to start working on the beaver management plan update soon, because we anticipate bringing both the rule and the beaver management plan back to the board in the summer of 2026. So with permission, we would begin working on a rule, and then we would have that ready. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We have no public speakers. Is there any questions from the board? Robin?
So Scott, just to clarify, the same group that's helping put together the beaver management plan would then also have input into the rules. So it'd be a coordinated effort between those two.
Yeah, so the scope statement's written that we would write, or we would bring forward any rule that is coming out of that. So that's a recommendation that comes out of the beaver plan committee. The department then considers that recommendation and then decides whether or not to move forward with the rule proposal.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, somebody want to offer a motion?
I'll make that motion, Chair. Approve scope statement for Board Order WM 0525.
Doug moves approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Patty. We have a second from Patty. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Item 4C, request the board approve the statement of scope for Board Order FH 19-24 and conditionally approve the public hearing notice and notice of submittal of proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse for proposed rules affecting chapters NR 8, 13, 19 through 26, 102, and 104, related to minor changes, corrections, and clarifications to fishing regulations on inland, outlying, and boundary waters. This is the 2025 Fisheries Management Housekeeping Rule. Kari Lee Zimmerman, Fisheries Regulations and Policy Specialist. Welcome, Kari.
Thank you, Bill. I'm pleased to be here today to present to you the fisheries version of the housekeeping rule that we have going forward. Let's see. Similar to wildlife, we are at the same place where we are asking approval of the scope statement so we can begin working on the rule. This rule will only cover things that are not substantial changes, are clarifying in nature, and or are helping us to update code with things that are already passed via statute. So it's a polishing up administrative code versus making any substantial changes to it. These are not different than any of the things we're currently doing. So it's just a cleanup process that we're doing for fisheries. And we'll be coming back to you in about the same timeline as wildlife. So we're thinking winter of 26. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about fisheries housekeeping rule.
Are there questions from the board?
Chair.
Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, thanks. So the bullet list says examples of items that may be addressed. So I'm assuming that those things would be addressed, but there's one kind of in the middle, updating the water body names official USGS names as required by state statute. I know the USGS was updating water body names. Some of those that tribes were contacted for were because of cultural insensitivity, if you will. Are those some of those?
I believe so.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, could we have a motion?
I move approval of this scope statement.
Robin moves approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jeff seconds. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Patty?
No, I support. I just wait.
And all those opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. Thank you, Kari.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4D. Request map correction of approved 2025 deer season recommendations. Jeff Pritzel, State Deer Program Specialist. Welcome back, Jeff.
Good morning, Chair Smith, and thank you to the members of the board and Secretary Hyun. I am here to request an approval of a corrected map that we presented to you at the June board meeting for the deer season framework and structure. I'd like to begin by extending my apology that I'm on your agenda today, and it reflects the fact that the materials presented to you back in June as background information had my name at the bottom of it. It's my responsibility that it was accurate, and that was not the case as it related to the map that specifically shares which counties we're recommending for the holiday hunt and the January extension. When we became aware of those errors, I reached out to the chairs of the two county CDACs by phone and the CDACs in total via email. And I extend my apology to them as well. They've been very patient and understanding in this process as we pursued this correction. They're very pleased that we are pursuing this correction. So with that, I'd like to bring up the next slide, please. So here on the left, we have the map that you were presented at the June Natural Resources Board meeting. And on the right is the corrected map that includes both Pierce and Greene County colored red, which would indicate the CDAC's intention to hold the holiday hunt and the January archery extension in those counties. We will be, assuming approval of the corrected map, we'll be taking advantage of all of our opportunities with outreach leading up to the deer hunting seasons to draw attention to this change. And also we are able to contact deer hunters who are either reside in these counties or have registered deer in these counties over the past 3 years. If we have their email account in the Go Wild system, they would receive an email indicating this update, and all of our online resources, would share the updated map as well. So we've also taken procedural steps, added things into our notes for next year to make sure that this does not occur again. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Before we go to questions, I just want to make a clarification. We have one public speaker signed up for this item, Rob Bowman, Wisconsin Conservation Congress Chair. Rob's not able to appear this morning. He will send comments in written form for this particular item. So with that, any questions or comments from the board? Robin, go ahead.
I'm just curious, did he indicate support for this in his comments?
Well, I would defer to Jeff, I guess, and ask him for what you've heard from the Congress on this correction.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Robin. And I did also discuss this with Rob. We became aware of the Greene County error shortly after the June board meeting. The Pierce County error came to our attention later when the map went public. And so I've talked to Rob several times. Initially, the thought was, it may be just a matter of what's done is done and we live with our error. But talking with him later, he expressed to me that, of course, as Congress leadership has, they intend to support the CDAC recommendations. And if that's what the local CDACs, want, understandably, he did share with me that, Congress, would not have they wouldn't go against the CDAC's recommendation to correct this.
Thank you.
Well, I think it'd be a good time to point out too that this also puts the maps in line with the board approval from the last meeting. Otherwise, there would have been a disparity between the two. So thank you, Jeff, for bringing this correction forward. With that, other comments from the board? Doug?
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Chair, was, so we approved, when the board approved the corrected version back in June, when we approved it, not the incorrect version.
Yes, we approve the correct version.
Yeah.
That the corrected map represents, but this map that had the errors was part of the background material, part of the package that was submitted, so it's a point of confusion for the public on that, and this is a way to clean it up. And just because of that, we think it would be appropriate to do this with a formal decision item in motion on the board, just to make sure it's exactly clear what our intentions are.
And one more.
Yep.
So the outreach on it, I was surprised to hear how much outreach we do with it, which is great. So what I heard Jeff say was anybody that's registered a deer in those two counties get an email updating them on this action. I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
That's what I heard. Jeff, you might want to restate your public outreach on this. It's an important part of the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. And yeah, we do recognize that is indeed the case, and we always want to prevent creating this kind of confusion. And although it doesn't kick in or have an implication until December and January, as hunters now are selecting their farmland antlerless permits or bonus tags, and especially in the case of the farmland counties, we want them to make an informed decision. And some of them, maybe would choose which county they're going to, select their farmland tags for based on their ability to participate in that, especially in the holiday hunt. So, and that was what was expressed to us by the CDACs. They wanted to make sure hunters were selecting, keeping the tradition of hunting the holiday hunt in those counties if they have been in the past. So, yeah, it's nice that we do have that ability through our Go Wild system to reach out to those hunters that we know it may specifically impact.
Sure is. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? With that, I think we're ready for a motion. And again, I'd state that the motion and the request here is a very narrow one. It's strictly to accept this, to approve this map correction as part of the earlier board decision made in June.
I would go ahead and make that motion to approve this corrected map.
Got a motion to approve from Robin. Is there a second? Second from Doug. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Which brings us to open forum about an hour before we're scheduled. Ashley, do we have all of the open forum people online or available to go into that right now, or should we hold off till closer to 10 o'clock? Okay. I would suggest we hold off starting on that a little bit longer. So let's move down with the acceptance of the board. Let's move down to item 6A, the biennial habitat work plan. Tim Lazat, Land and Habitat Conservation Supervisor, Bureau of Wildlife Management. Welcome, Tim.
Good morning, Chairman Smith, Secretary Young, members of the board. As Bill said, my name's Tim Lazat and I supervise our land and habitat conservation section within the wildlife management program. Purpose of our agenda item today is to present to you, the board, and the public, the department's first ever biannual habitat work plan. It's an informational item, and we have an opportunity for the board to ask questions and for us to discuss the department's habitat management efforts. I'm not sure if the clicker's working, but it's not working for me. There we go. Excellent. In 2023, both the State Assembly and Senate set forth draft bills requiring the department to produce a biannual habitat work plan. The department testified at both of those draft bills, and further, at the request of the Senate, we also provided an estimate of the funding needed to produce the work plan, as well as an estimate of the overall department habitat management funding needs. Ultimately, Statute 23.0925 was enacted, which does require the department to produce the biennial work plan, annually report on progress, but no additional funding was attached to the statute. To set the stage for today and provide some perspective on scale, the department owns approximately 1.6 million acres of the 35 million acres of total land in Wisconsin. When it comes to public land ownership, the department is third behind the counties and the federal government. The primary habitat management programs in the DNR are fisheries management, wildlife management, natural heritage conservation, and the forestry division. While the department owns a relatively small percentage of all land in Wisconsin, I want to emphasize that what we do on our lands makes a difference. Some of our lands have the best, and in some cases, the only habitat for certain priority key species of wildlife, fish, and plants. Therefore, it's imperative that the department provides outstanding stewardships of the land that we are entrusted to manage. All of our habitat programs currently have planning and prioritization systems based on their missions and funding. This inaugural work plan is not an original planning effort. What it is, in fact, is a compilation of the department's existing habitat planning efforts across both our fish, wildlife parks and forestry divisions on a statewide scale and within each ecological landscape. We took the approach of crafting the work plan within the ecological landscapes of Wisconsin, which is also how we conduct our property master planning efforts. All of the proposed habitat work is in accordance with our master plans and relayed to the public through our annual property implementation process. The department's overarching habitat goal is aimed at supporting sustainable fish, wildlife, and plant populations, with sustainable being the key word. Habitat for the purpose of the plan is defined as a place or places where an organism lives and meets one or more of its life cycle needs. As I mentioned earlier, our habitat priorities are driven by many plans, including the Wisconsin Wildlife Action Plan, Statewide Forest Action Plan, and other various habitat and species plans that generally come to the board for approval. It's really important to highlight that we cannot accomplish our habitat goals alone. Partnerships are critical to success, as is the work on the private lands where the department also plays an important role. Evolution is critical to success. We apply the principles of a learning organization to evaluate our work and modify what we do, where we do it, to maximize impacts of our efforts. In the work plan and within the department's internal systems, we characterize habitat work in terms of treatments. Up on the slide, you see examples of some habitat treatments, including on the left, installing biologs for trout stream improvement, in the center, prescribed burning to rejuvenate a grassland, and on the right, tree planting to expand an existing forest stand. There are many other treatment types that we conduct, and they're outlined and described in the work plan. This slide's an example of graphic presentation of how we broke out the habitat work within the ecological landscapes. Additionally, the total of statewide work is summarized in the executive summary section. We plan on reporting out by both the ecological landscape and the statewide totals. Importantly, we fully anticipate to overachieve in some areas in the plan and not meet our targets in others due to the vagaries and changes of staffing, weather, and funding. When it comes to funding, the federal wildlife and sport fish grants and the Fish and Wildlife account are the primary sources for habitat management in Wisconsin. Wildlife and sport fish are also known as the PR and DJ grants. As you're aware, the Fish and Wildlife account has a structural deficit, and our habitat work will need to be scaled accordingly to available resources. I do want to recognize the efforts of our partners, such as our property friends groups, those who adopt our fish and wildlife areas, and the many other individuals and organizations who contribute to habitat management on state lands. We cannot be successful without them. So what's ahead? We've learned a lot from going through this exercise and have identified improvement areas to our various systems and programs to help inform our work moving forward. Resource constraints will continue to drive us to focus our efforts to achieve the best possible results. And lastly, we are striving to improve our relevancy to those outside our core constituency so they may play an increased role in this important habitat work. And with that, we'd like to hear from the board and answer any questions or comments that you may have. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Tim. Are there questions and comments from the board? Jeff?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm a big user of both the streams and upland wildlife and stuff like that. And I know there are efforts from organizations to increase like the habitat stamp, the trout habitat stamp. And it's disappointing when it doesn't go any further. I mean, a modest increase from $10 to $15, isn't accepted. I just applied for an elk tag in Colorado, and part of that, just the application was $100 habitat stamp, just to even apply for it. So, where do initiatives like that come from to try to make up for the shortfall? It doesn't seem to be. And I know we ask for those funds, we don't get those funds. Where can we go at, to get these funds that are so badly needed? I think it's as a hunter and a fisherman, that's such a minimal fee to access all these public lands, and I understand it takes management. I see these fish habitat crews working and do excellent work. I want to be supportive, and other than donating and putting in time, I'd like to see some other initiatives to support this habitat.
Jeff, that's a wonderful comment, and certainly very relevant for the habitat work that Tim's talking about. We've seen many, many instances, and just the generosity today on the donations is parallel to a lot of volunteer hours and volunteer time, and our partner organizations are able to do a lot and fill gaps. So I think it's a very relevant question for habitat, but I'd also say hold on to that one for the next informational briefing. Maggie's coming in to talk about the status of the biennial budget impacts on the department. She may have a very interesting perspective on that question as well. So thank you. Anything else, Jeff?
No, thank you.
Other questions, comments from the board? Robin?
I don't want to jump in front of anyone else. Might have questions, but yeah, so a couple of questions. So this effort was required by statute, and I think what I heard you say was that by putting this together, it actually was a benefit to the department and to your staff. Can you just kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I think the benefit of bringing us all together across our divisions and all our programs helped us really recognize how each program prioritizes their work and how they fund it, and look for opportunities where we can get some synergies going across our various programs and our lands. And coming out of that, we've got a suite of recommendations, both for our internal planning and reporting systems, but also ways that we can work more collaboratively and maybe get some more synergies out of the work that we do.
Ask a
Go
follow-up.
ahead.
So you talked about resource constraints and the partnerships. I'm assuming that in your, when you look at your treatments, some of those treatments will be conducted by partner organizations. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. All the work factored in here is on lands owned or managed by the department, so areas where we have habitat leases and things like that. So yeah, our staff enter those, any work done by our partners into the system, as well as we had quite a list of donations today. So we have people continually, we had the Bell Trust with the habitat work. So any work under that would be folded into the plan too. So yeah, it reflects the overall efforts, not just the department, but also our partners on our managed lands.
And then one last question. Can you, I appreciate our conversation earlier, but can you explain when you identify the pesticides, the acreage pesticides, that's just what's evaluated for pesticide use? Could you clarify that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's a pretty big number there when it comes to pesticide use, and Robin had brought up, wow, that's a lot of pesticides being applied to the department land. And I guess I want to stress that there's a couple of things there. One is invasive species drive a lot of that. And in many cases, targeted, informed pesticide use is what's best to get the result you want. But the reason for the somewhat big number there is this is a plan, and within our internal systems, to kind of simplify it, the department properties are broken up into stands, which are areas of similar cover type. And so when you propose a treatment, in this case, pesticide use, in the system, it proposes it to the entire stand. For example, let's say the stand is 300 acres, but what you're going to do is go in and treat spotted knapweed within that stand. You may actually only end up treating 10 acres out of that 300 acre stand. And so when we come through with our completed treatments, our staff are able to state exactly how many acres are treated. So I suspect that number will come down. It's somewhat of the basically just indicative of how our systems work.
Other questions or comments?
Other than to say that it was an impressive plan, and I enjoyed reading it, and it was very informative.
I'm going to
Thank you.
check in with Patty. Patty, I don't see any kind of a thing here that allows you to raise your hand on screen, so I don't want to overlook any comments you might have.
No, I thought it was a very good and comprehensive report and very informative. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. One of them is, in the plan, you emphasize strongly that the plan was based upon current funding projections, and that was a while ago. And things are changing on a pretty regular basis here, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the air. Could you go into a little bit more detail of where you believe you're at with Fish and Wildlife funding that would support the efforts on this plan and where the uncertainties are?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our current state budget, with the Fish and Wildlife account, and what occurred was basically a transfer from our forestry account to the Fish and Wildlife account to get us close to being whole. Maggie can speak much better to this, but to my understanding, our gap was larger than 15 million and somewhat less than 17. So we anticipate we will still have some sort of a shortfall here, but that applies to all programs across the Fish and Wildlife account. And so the portion that actually applies to habitat management is going to be some subset of that amount. So I would say with the numbers in the plan, we tried to be realistically optimistic. So, this is what we'd like to accomplish. but it's not everything we want to do because it's somewhat, the plan was crafted within the realities of our budget. So I would think our overall totals will be close or slightly reduced from what's in the plan. We already have our sport fish and wildlife dollars for the upcoming year. We know what those are. And so I think we'll be close, but probably not everything in the plan.
Okay, thank you. For people that would be looking at the plan and the annual report, you mentioned you're going to report out on a statewide, state lands basis, and also on an ecological landscape basis. It would be broken down. A lot of the people, the next step they want to go to is what's happening out my back door. How do people drill down to get the kind of detail at the local level for properties that they may have a particular interest in?
Yeah, thanks for that one. That's a good question. So every year the department conducts what we call as integrated property planning, and then we produce an annual property implementation plan. So basically our programs get together by area, talk about what's going to occur on the properties, and then we publish that on the web so people can literally go in, click on their property and see, oh, there'll be a prescribed burn at Mud Lake Wildlife Area this year. So that's, those that want to dive into the detail, it's there and provided for them.
Okay, thanks. I have one last question. This is a little broader. You mentioned the legislative requirement to report annually. In reading the report, it's really heavy on a lot of data, very data driven. There's goals set, there's accomplishments planned, and the report out looks like it's going to be very strong in a quantitative sense. My question relates more to the qualitative side of things. Is this plan working? Are we accomplishing in the field what we want to? So when we say we burned so many acres or we've got so many fish habitat structures in the water, does our audit allow us to go back and evaluate, are we really accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish in the field? So is it working is the simple way to ask that question.
Sure. When I commented earlier about the learning organization, we infuse that in the work we do. And as an example, I use prescribed burning. After the burns, we do a day of burn evaluation. Did we achieve the goals? And then we go back at regular time intervals and look at whether we achieve the goals or not. And because we record the conditions on site when we do the burn, the weather, the vegetation, everything, we can go back and learn from that. But I will say that primarily because of resource constraints, there is this tension between how many resources do you allocate to monitoring versus just doing the work. And an area I would like to see us do more is in some of our species monitoring efforts, because the habitat is really about the plants, the fish, and the wildlife. So are we having the intended impacts there? And those are, of course, more costly, resource intensive. But on the flip side, technology is really starting to help us there. Things like acoustic monitors that can be placed on the landscape and listen for birds, or eBird, where we are literally pulling in citizen science into our wetland plan to see if the birds that we would expect to be there due to our work are there. So technology and citizen science are helping us in those areas.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Tim. Very informative. And I should ask also, when you do your annual report, would there be an opportunity to come back into the board at some point in time with an informational presentation on how this plan is progressing and what you're seeing on that? I don't know that it needs to be an annual report to the board, but I think in view that this is a rather new thing starting out and it's big and it's important, it would be nice to hear how things are going at the right point in time.
Well, I'm always up for talking about habitat management, so I think all you got to do is ask.
Okay, thank you much.
You bet. Have a good day and thanks for the time.
Yep. Ashley, I'll check in again on open forum. Everyone's on? Okay, let's get back on track with the normal agenda. We'll go to open forum. We have 4 appearances. today. First one is Jim Olson, Madison, Wisconsin, representing the petitioners on a revised Home Lake Rule petition and under open forum. Welcome, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Smith, Secretary Young, members of the board. I filed a scope statement with the board. The purpose for that was to try to move the thing along. I've been, before the board many times. I've heard many scope statements come along, but it's, a necessary part, and I'm hoping that we can get some action on this item. We filed it 60 days ago, so that it can do something to save the next voting season. But I want to move now. We've appeared before numerous town boards, many places, and one of the arguments that comes up was, well, wake boats aren't the only things that cause invasive species. All the boats, other boats cause invasive species. And I don't dispute that. But the fact is the department has done a great job in dealing with other boats, other than wake boats with ballast systems. Your statistics show that in 2024, there were almost 150,000 boats that were inspected by Clean Boats, Clean Water inspectors. There were over 275,000 people that were contacted. I filed a open records request with the department, and I found that there were 60 citations issued to ordinary boaters for violating NR 19.055, which requires all boats to be inspected. So the department's doing a great job as far as other boats are concerned, but they're totally ignoring the wake boats and the ballast systems. My open records request, I indicated the studies that were out there which showed that these ballast systems create a problem, and I asked the department to provide me with any documents they had which disputed that, and they said there were none. So the fact of the matter is there's differential treatment out there. Ordinary boaters are being required to follow the law. The wake boats with their ballast systems are given a pass. It's as if, the Department of Transportation would exempt certain automobiles from catalytic converters. The ballast systems are given a preferred system, a preferred treatment out there, and the department is, on the other hand, being very aggressive as far as ordinary boaters are concerned. Now, I realize that the system for administrative rules is long and ponderous, but frankly, in the last month with the recent decision in Evers versus Markline, I think it has made it easier for administrative rules to become adopted. The department, in its own website, recommends thermal decontamination of ballast systems. But what we're asking is that become a rule. That, rather than just saying you should do it, we want that there be a rule. And so that's why we're coming before you, and we're asking that this be moved along. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have on this subject.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Are there questions from the board? Doug, go
Thank you,
ahead.
Chair. Thanks, Jim. So the citations you referenced, 60 or 61 citations that you found, are we sure none of those citations were related to wake boats? Said they were all regular boats.
Yeah, all regular boats, mostly for failing to properly drain a live well.
Yeah.
So again, as I'm saying, you're giving wake boats with ballast systems preferred treatment. You're ignoring them. You're saying we don't have to inspect them. And what I'm saying is, okay, I realize that they've made it impossible to inspect. That's not our fault. That's not your fault. That's the manufacturer's fault that they're impossible to inspect. What we're doing is giving you a way to reduce the risk of the spread of invasive species, which the department admits that the literature out there is undisputed.
Other questions from the board? Robin?
So how would someone document or prove if they had a thermal treatment of the ballast water?
Well, they would have, in our system that we have, in our home lake rule that we have put into effect, that we would ask to be put into effect. If they're going, we're only saying that you have to decontaminate it if you move it from one lake to another. And we have prepared a declaration for the person to sign. We'll trust the person to say, okay, it's been decontaminated by such and such a person on such and such a date. And all that the person, all the DNR warden or the Clean Boats, Clean Water inspector would have to do is see the declaration.
Jim, there was some additional background in the materials, how you would use this thermal treatment certification as sort of a tool with a home rule petition that you've talked about, how somebody might have that and it would certify them to put their boat into their home water, if you will, and continue to use it there. But before they could move it to another water, they'd have to get it recertified.
Yeah. And
understand that clearly?
Well, no, actually, all the person that is going to use it in their home lake will say that they have to have a declaration that they're only going to be using it in this one lake for a calendar year. And, we've talked to a respected limnologist who used to work for the department and feels that if the boat has not been used for the previous season, from, let's say, December through April, that there is very little risk of spreading invasive species. So if you just do it, say, okay, for 1 year, we're not even requiring that you get decontaminated. And that is much different than our first home lake rule petition, because that greatly reduces the number of boats that would require decontamination. And according to the department's rejection of our prior home lake rule, they said most boats only stay in one body of water. So this is a very, very modest, it's not what we want totally, but I think it's what we can accomplish. I mean, there was the Wisconsin Conservation Congress, which I think you listened to. They voted 72% to ban ballast systems on all Wisconsin waters. 72%. It carried every county. It carried every Senate district. This is what the public wants. The public wants some control over these boats. And this is a very modest proposal, which we feel the department should move ahead.
Thank you for clearing that up. Other questions? Rachel?
Well, my thought with this is that, while this addresses that invasive species, having that just a home lake, is there depth and size of the lake provisions in there? Also, it's not addressing the shoreline damage concerns and many of the other concerns that have been expressed regarding wake boats.
You're absolutely right, Rachel. And I would love to have a rule before you which addresses all of those things. But as a lawyer and looking at what the department's responsibility is for this, it is clear that there's a responsibility as far as invasives. But there are existing statutes dealing with distance from shore. I think that we could possibly craft a regulation dealing with depth that would be within the department's purview. But I think right now, that is something that we felt, the administrative rule procedure might say that is beyond the department's responsibility. But I think I could make an argument to the contrary. But I just went with what I thought would be the easiest thing. And I hope it would be the easiest thing. I've been now here over a year and a half now talking about this. But I went with what I thought was clearly within the department's responsibility. And I'm asking you to do something. quit giving the ballast, the boats preferential treatment.
Other questions? We have more testimony coming on wake boating, wake surfing, so to give us time to think about it, we may have some other questions.
Yes, and there's
Jim,
more
thank you.
studies out all supporting what we were asking for.
Thank you very much. Very
Okay, thank you.
informative. Our second appearance is virtually Richard Phillips from Presque Isle, representing himself and talking about wake surfing regulation. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Bill. My name is Richard Phillips. I wish to address the DNR's role in the wake surfing debate. Jim just talked about wake surfing regulation. Certainly for Wisconsin lakes 50 acres and more, where boats may move above slow no wake, there is no issue that creates more user conflict, more environmental damage, nor more damage to shoreline and docks than wake surfing. It is by far the most commonly reported Wisconsin lake issue the past several years on radio, on TV, in the newspapers, and in outdoor journals. There's no hotter issue for lake associations statewide. As demonstrated by the DNR's own Wisconsin Conservation Congress, the issue gets huge attention and overwhelming public support for regulation. Yet, it seems the Wisconsin DNR takes absolutely no position, and the silence causes real problems. I and many others like me serve as lake advocates. We work across the state for free to provide education regarding the impact of wake surfing and assisting lake associations and towns in their efforts to deal with it. Time and again, after providing information about the vast damage and lake usurpation caused by wake surfing on lakes too small, too crowded, or too shallow for the support, we're met with this question from town boards. If, as you say, this issue is so important, why has the DNR said not one thing about it? Wake surfers challenge us with this same question, and those questions are very hard to answer. Where is the DNR? Several months ago, the first lawsuit was filed in Wisconsin challenging a town ordinance prohibiting wake surfing. The lucky town is the town of Scott in Burnett County. All the plaintiffs are out-of-staters with summer cabins on Birch Island Lake. The plaintiffs complain the ordinance deprives them of the right to wake surf on their lake, which the DNR's own published records shows has an average depth of 6 feet and its greatest depth of 13 feet. And the DNR is silent. Now, everyone understands the DNR cannot take final positions on all aspects of wake surfing. But certainly the DNR, like other state DNRs, could say something, and in so doing could improve what is a bad problem. Jim Olson just spoke to us about differential enforcement. The DNR extensively advises on emptying bait buckets and live wells between lakes. This is important and this is good. It decreases the chance of invasives transfer. Why couldn't the DNR, in the face of unassailable evidence that surf boats transfer ballast water between lakes, state if for whatever reason you cannot decontaminate your ballast tanks between lakes, you should always use your boat on just one lake each season? Likewise, the evidence is unassailable that wake surf boats work devastation on lake bottoms and lakes too shallow for the sport. No reasonable person can debate that wake surfing should not occur in a lake whose greatest depth is 13 feet. Yet in the face of the DNR's silence on wake surfing, we have rich non-residents argue their rights under the federal constitution are violated when they're prohibited from wake surfing on a lake with an average depth of 6 feet. Likewise, it is unassailable that when a ballasted boat operates on a lake the first time each season, it dumps antifreeze into the lake. Why could the DNR not simply advise people, before you use your wake surf boat for the first time in a season, have the ballast tanks purged of antifreeze so it doesn't go into our precious lakes? I could give more examples. The DNRs in other states are taking positions and giving recommendations, and that has helped the situation in those states. We understand the political reality that the DNR may be subject to political checks that forbid it taking too decisive a position. But certainly, we could help a bad problem of enormous public interest by the DNR taking some position on a problem of such great importance, great interest, and growing significance as the boats become bigger and more numerous each year. Please consider giving me something to say the next time someone challenges me by saying if the problem were really significant, the DNR would say something. I am profoundly impressed by the 60 or so towns that have shown the care and the backbone to enact ordinances to protect their lakes. But surely they should expect some help, some inspiration, and some guidance from the DNR. Thank you.
Richard, you're well over your 3 minutes. You were going strong, and I didn't want to interrupt you at the time. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Are there questions, comments from the board?
Yes, I have a question.
Robin, go ahead.
So are you able to, in providing information to interested local municipalities, use the most recently published Minnesota study as further to further clarify what the science is showing?
We are, and we do. I showed some of their videos just 2 nights ago in the town of Oma in Iron County.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Our next appearance is Carol Phillips from Presque Isle, representing herself on the wake surfing issue. Looks like Jeff on screen. Is Carol available?
I will go and say that we had combined our presentation and coordinated that through Ashley. So Carol is not going to be speaking today, but I have a presentation and it's actually on the St. Anthony Falls study, if that's good to go.
Sounds like you've worked out a very timely transition here to another aspect of the wake surfing issue. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, first of all, Chair Smith and Secretary Young and Natural Resource Board members, and particularly Chris and Ashley for the technical help they provided with this presentation. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. My name is Jeff Meisman, and I'm blessed to live in Presque Isle, located in Vilas County. Vilas County has one of the largest collections of freshwater lakes in the world. It's a very special place. So again, for the record, Carol and I have combined our presentation. So I'd like to have Chris call up the presentation right now. Okay, next slide. So we're going to start out presenting a very brief report on the long-awaited gold standard St. Anthony Falls study that came out of the University of Minnesota. And I call this the gold standard of studies because this study used both empirical and theoretical information to make its recommendations. It's a very, very well done, comprehensive study. This is the second study that the University of Minnesota has done on recreational powerboats. The next part of the presentation is going to be a video. It's going to include aerial drone footage and underwater video, and then the conclusions of the study. Next slide. This is just the cover sheet for the study, and you can see it's the University of Minnesota, a field study of recreational powerboat hydrodynamics and their impacts on water column and lake bed. Next slide. These were the objectives of the study, and time doesn't permit to go through all of them. So in this particular case, we're just going to be reviewing number 6. Number 6 is to capture the underwater and aerial video of the hydrodynamic phenomenon and any subsequent impacts on sediment and resuspension. So let's start the video. And it's going to take a little bit to queue up here, but the study took place on Lake Minnetonka in Minnesota. There were 7 recreational boats tested, but this video is just going to show the wake boat. There was 2 deck boats that were tested. There were 3 bow riders that were tested. They have inboard outboard engines and 2 wake boats. There was 4 lake water depths tested, 9 feet, 14 feet, 16 feet, and 27 feet. There are bottom-mounted acoustic-based velocity sensors that were used to measure the wave velocities, and there were also videos were taken from aerial drone and also underwater. You see the boat going through. This is a wake boat going through, and they called these two little red dots, these were buoy markers. They call them the goalpost. And the boat was instructed to go from one goalpost to the other at a specific speed of 11.6 miles an hour. And then they were going to record overhead videos and underwater videos. And also they were taking water samples. You can see the rowboat going out there to take samples right now. 3 different boat speeds were tested on all the boats: planing speed, which was 21 to 25 miles an hour, displacement, which was 7 to 9 miles per hour, and semi-displacement, which was 11.6 miles an hour. 5 passes were made on each boat to ensure the integrity of the data, and there was 15 minutes between passes, and there was 1 hour between operating condition changes. You can see this is 45 minutes after the boat had gone through, and you can see the plume of bottom that's been reintroduced into the water column.
Jeff, this is Bill. I may have missed it. Do you know the depth that this particular run was taken at?
Great questions. The first buoy is at 9 feet, and the second buoy is at 14 feet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is the wake boat. All the other boats that were tested did not show this type of reaction to the bottom. Only the wake boats in the surf mode created this plume of debris coming up from the bottom. Okay, now there will be a brief pause, and then you'll see the next shot. You're going to see this is a camera on the bottom, and the boat is moving over the camera. And this is what happens at the bottom, to the bottom of our lakes. The screen is going to go dark because of the excessive turbidity that this blowing up the bottom of a lake has caused. Okay, next slide. So wake boats in the surfing mode produce a much greater bottom damage than test boats in the planing mode and in the non-wake boat modes in the displacement mode. Multiple passes have a cumulative impact. You can see the plume that just resuspended sediment, and it was present for hours. There's recommendations that they made based out of this study. They recommended a depth of operation when your boat is in the planing mode, and the planing mode again is 21 to 25 miles an hour. Recreational boats like the one studied in this project should operate in 10 feet of water or greater when planing to minimize impact on the lake bed. The recommended depth operation for non-wake boats and wake boats in displacement mode, leisure cruising, that's 7 to 9 miles an hour. Recreational boats like this, like the ones in the study in this project, should operate in 10 feet of water or greater when in sustained displacement mode to minimize the impacts on the lake bed. And the recommended depth of operation for lake boats in the semi-displacement mode or the surfing mode, which is 11.6 miles per hour, wake boats should operate in 20 feet of water or greater when in the semi-displaced mode to minimize the impact on the lake bottom. Conclusion, it is clear that wake boats in the surf mode are damaging the bottom of our shallow Wisconsin lakes. The mission of the DNR is to protect our natural resources. The last meeting you had in June, your AIS specialist came in and she said, we need to do more studies on the AIS of wake boats. That's not necessary. The boating industry itself says they transport aquatic invasive species in their ballast systems. Their ballast systems can become infected with quagga mussels and zebra mussels. And they have a recommended procedure for decontaminating their boats at 120 degrees. There's no more studies that are needed on this. The industry says they have a problem, and they put it on the states to figure out how to solve that. And they recommend cleaning out their systems with 120-degree Fahrenheit water. But I could see where this is going. If we have all our lakes infected with quagga mussels, for example, the boating industry is going to say, we told you guys how to fix this problem and you didn't do it. So anyways, the goal, the mission of the DNR and the NRB is to protect our natural resources. There's no more studies that are needed. When is the DNR going to step up and honor their mission statement to protect our natural resources? I'll do my best now to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Jeff, for your commentary and for the videos. Very informative. Questions from the board, comments? Robin? Oh,
Thanks, Chair.
go ahead, Doug, then Robin.
Good. So Jeff, the mention of regular boats, not wake boats, that were also used in the study, were the same videos taken of runs with a regular boat?
Absolutely. I just didn't have time at this presentation to show them all because we would have spent a couple hours. There's a lot of video footage on all of their testing. Their testing was extremely well done.
Understood. Thanks.
Robin?
Jeff, can you tell me whether or not the state of Minnesota has established legislation at the state level that incorporates the results of this information into any of their laws?
This presentation just came out in June or July of 2025. So I'd have to say, no, it's just been released like the last 3 weeks.
Okay. So, okay. Thank you.
I don't believe they have it included yet in their legislation. There's been a lot of states that have made recommendations, but I feel that this is a very good study that was done, very credible. The way they did it was extremely well done, taking both video data and taking the theoretical data and combining the two together, giving you a root cause of why these boats are blowing up the bottom of the lake like they are. They did an awesome job on this.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments from the board?
What is,
Rachel, go ahead.
and this isn't necessarily a question for Jeff, more for Karen, where are we at as far as some of these requests or wake boat regulations at either the department or state level?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Rachel. And thanks to Jeff and Jim and Richard and Carol for consistently providing additional information on the impacts of wake boats on our lakes. We appreciate it. And I think we've also been waiting for this particular study to be released, which I think we've mentioned a couple times, maybe in passing, that we knew that it was underway and we wanted to see what the results were. I've instructed our team to do a thorough review of the results of that study so that we can evaluate what our options are, especially in terms of working with the legislature on additional authority and resources that we would need to implement any of sort of recommendations that would come out of a report like this or a study like this.
If I can offer one more suggestion, and there is another group, a TerraVigilus group, that is doing another study on a lake. And what that group is doing, and which this study didn't cover, but they never said they were going to cover it, is the actually startup of wake surfing. So when you're behind a wake boat and you start wake surfing, they have an aggressive startup with a lot of power that's put into the bottom of the lake. And this study didn't really cover the startup. It covered the boat as it was already operating at 11.6 miles per hour. So TerraVigilus is going to have some film footage on what happens on a startup mode in these boats. And I suspect it's going to go much further than 20 feet deep. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw 27 to 30 feet deep in some of the videos that they're going to have. So, and this study will be available at the end of August.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Pat.
When looking at the video, I mean, clearly you can see what's going on. This conversation has been going on as long as I've been on the board. And then as we look to the future, the boating season is coming to a close end. What kind of permanent damage are these studies showing? Because it could be years before the legislature takes it on. It could, I mean, this is something that's ongoing. What are we seeing for permanent damage?
I can answer that in some fashion. There's lakes that we've identified, Hunter's Lake, for example, in the southern part of the state. A lady bought property on there because she had a sandy shore lake frontage, and they had wake boats on their lake. Now, this is a 53-acre lake, and it had 3 wake boats on it. They resuspended the sediment. The sediment drifted over to her sandy beach, and now she has a couple of layers of muck on her. Instead of a sandy beach, she has a muck beach. That's filled with just mud, the bottom material from the lake. There's another lake, Cedar Lake, that has aquatic plants on a lot of the underwater islands, I call them, and they were the fishing spots, the hot fishing spots for these lakes. Those have been wiped out by wake surf boats. So there's evidence all over the place in the state of Wisconsin where these boats are damaging and doing permanent damage to lakes. When you get aquatic invasive species in your lake, for example, you get a spiny water flea or a quagga mussel or a zebra mussel, there's no remediation for that right now. So when you talk about damage, some of this damage is permanent and can't be reversed. Other damage like to shorelines, I mean, the people are constantly rebuilding their shorelines to protect their boats. So permanent damage is happening right now. And we have to protect our lakes or we're going to lose them.
Thank you
Other
for that.
questions, Patty?
Nope,
Patty?
that was my main question.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I have one thing I'd just like to add on. I was gonna cover this under board members matters at the end, but now's the time to do it. We're right in the middle of the subject. Karen, I'm really pleased to hear that you've got staff mobilized and you're already looking at the study. I would ask as a courtesy, when you hit the appropriate time and have information, to bring it back to the board as an informational item. I've had copies of that study sent to me and Googled them up and took a look at it. Very cursory, very brief, but it's full of data, it's full of statistics, it's full of scientific jargon. And it would be really nice to see people that are expert in this take a look at it and then come back and inform the department, the board, and the public how that information, how credible it is, and how it might inform our decision-making in Wisconsin.
Sure, we're happy to do that, Bill.
Thank you. Any more on this before we move on? Okay. Again, thanks to everyone for their input.
Thank you.
We're at almost 10 o'clock, so I'd suggest we take about a 15-minute break, reconvene at 10:10, and we will go back to the information items and start with item 6B, which is the informational update on the budget. That'll be at 10:10. We're adjourned temporarily. So time to go back to work. Okay, we'll call the board back into session on information item 6B. Informational update on the final 2025-27 biennial budget as it relates to the Department of Natural Resources. Maggie Hutter, Director of Management and Budget. Welcome, Maggie. Welcome back.
Thank you. Chair Smith, Secretary Young, members of the board. My name is Maggie Hutter. I'm the Director of Management and Budget for the DNR, and I have an informational update for you on the biennial budget. We're going to go, for the most part, just division by division, looking at the topics that were addressed in the budget and how they're going to impact our agency. So looking agency-wide, the budget provided general wage adjustments for our full-time employees at a rate of 3% in FY26, which is this fiscal year, and 2% in the next fiscal year. These adjustments went into effect on Sunday, so our staff will see them in their paychecks starting in September. This is a part of the overall compensation plan. We don't know everything that's going to end up in that plan. It has to go to the Joint Committee on Employee Relations, but that plan can have other items that will impact how we are able to compensate our staff for their work. So we are waiting for more information on other policy items that could impact what we can pay, but we know that we get the 3% and 2% to increase our FTE staff wages, and that's already gone into effect. Then looking at agency-wide at things that were not in the budget, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get in this budget that we really could have used. So some big ticket items. Stewardship was not included in the final budget. The governor had proposed a really significant stewardship reauthorization, and the legislature decided not to include anything in the final budget. Stewardship is scheduled to expire next July, so we do have a year to hopefully find a path through separate legislation to renew the stewardship program. But that's not something obviously DNR can do on our own. We'll work with the governor's office and with the legislature, hopefully, to get something in place before the current program expires. Additionally, in the previous budget, a PFAS trust fund was created with $125 million in it. In the last budget, DNR was not given access to that money. And again, in this budget, we were not given access to that money. $125 million is a lot of money, and it's been sitting in account accruing interest. So it's a decent amount more than $125 million at this point, but we can't touch it. And we're hopeful that separate legislation could get passed that would allow us to access it. But at this point, we're still in a holding pattern for getting this money to help communities across Wisconsin address PFAS contamination. Also not in the budget were increases to hunt, fish, and trapping licenses. And Jeff, I think you had a question about this for Tim. So all of our hunting, fishing, and trapping licenses are set in statute. So in order to update them, and this includes the stamps, we do have to have legislation get passed to charge more for anything. And we do hear from a lot of groups that they are supportive of different license fee increases, but so far the legislature has not acted on in-state license fee increases. The last budget did increase some non-resident license fees, but we did not see any movement on any fees in the current budget. But related to that, the Legislative Audit Bureau here at the state has been doing an audit of the Fish and Wildlife account, and the projected end date for that is summer 2025, so anytime now. And we're hopeful that we get that audit, it looks positive, and then we might be able to move through separate legislation or other means to increase the license fees to help support our Fish and Wildlife account. Additionally, the governor had provided a lot of LTE funding for the department. We rely on LTEs in all of our different divisions. They do a lot of our core work. And every year as we see inflation, wages go up, but we don't get additional funding for LTEs, which means as wages go up, we can provide fewer and fewer hours, which means less and less work gets done. So all of our programs, we're hoping to see additional LTE funding, like the governor had proposed, but the legislature did not include any additional LTE funding for the department. So what that means is fewer hours and just less work that we can get done. And then finally, the legislature eliminated 20.1 FTE positions from our budget. So all of the positions were vacant, which is good. It means we're not laying anybody off in order to cut those positions. But it does mean work that we can't do going forward. And that's what position reductions always mean. So this budget, we lost 20 positions. The previous budget, we lost over 40 positions. So we have seen this steady decrease in positions over time. And these 20 positions were concentrated in the environmental management division. All right. Moving on to our Fish, Wildlife, and Parks division. So I mentioned there was no increase in the fees for hunt, fishing, and trapping, which is what supports our Fish and Wildlife account. Instead, the legislature has transferred $30 million from the forestry account to the Fish and Wildlife account. This will be $15 million in each year, and it's basically another Band-Aid solution to help us keep doing our base level of activities. And that's pretty much it for the Fish and Wildlife side of that division. There were really no new spending initiatives to help them do more work. This includes, I mean, Tim was up here talking about the habitat management plan. We had asked for additional funding to help us better implement a department-wide management plan. We did not get money for that. There was money related, proposed by the governor to help with wolf depredation and fencing. We did not get that. There's no additional money for fish stocking or anything. So it really is our fish and wildlife programs. They're just staying flat for the next 2 years. Looking at the park side, there are fee increases in the budget for non-resident admission, non-resident camping, and for electric campsites. That's good for our parks in that it helps them bring in additional revenue. Our parks are self-sufficient, so they don't get any general tax dollars to run their budget. It's all the admission fees and camping fees that they take in. That's what allows them to operate. So increasing these fees a bit will give them additional revenue to help them accomplish their goals. And then with that additional revenue, they're given an additional amount of expenditure authority, basically saying you're getting this revenue, you're also allowed to spend it. And that looks like $1.4 million just in operational supply line expenditure authority. So when we think about our parks, they have so many supplies they have to buy. They're managing trails and campsites. They're buying toilet paper and electricity to help the campsites. Actually, when you plug something in, electricity is there. They have to pay for all of that stuff off of their supply line. And they did get an increase of $1.4 million. Additionally, they got some one-time funding to upgrade their technology and maintenance equipment, and also to train some of the park staff in how to respond in a medical emergency. How do you use an AED? And also some supplies to go along with that. They were also given $3.8 million per year for capital expenditures. This is basically parks backlog that we hear about. It'll just help chip away a little bit at that. And then there's a site-specific project. So we toured the Kenosha Dunes at the last board meeting, and $6 million of unused stewardship money is being allocated for the Kenosha Dunes restoration. Moving on to forestry. So forestry did get a decent amount of supply line costs. So $2.2 million over the biennium, largely related to wildfire suppression. Our forestry team does a great job responding to any wildfire incidents that we see. So they've got additional funding for that. There's $460,000 over the biennium for invasive pest treatments. So this is largely related to the spongy moth. There's also some funding for software licensing to help them just in their general operations. And then there's $1 million in the budget for a grant for an industry-wide strategic plan. So forestry did get a number of things in their budget, but one thing we are cognizant of, everything is one-time funding. Most of the time when we get things in our budget, it's ongoing. So we get it 1 year and then we can spend it. We get more money every year because our costs just generally go up over time. but these are all one-time increases. So we will have to request the funding again next biennium if we want to see it in our budget again next. All right. Then going on to public safety and resource protection. So PSRP got an increase in overtime cost funding, and then $1 million to grant to an organization for ATV UTV trail. That's not a lot of additional funding for our wardens. The governor had included funding for additional laptops or tough books for the wardens, for replacing their radios, for making sure all of our wardens had working Wi-Fi routers in their vehicles so that they can use their portable laptops. The governor included money for patrol boats, body cameras, and tasers, and none of that made it into the final budget, which is pretty difficult for our warden team. They either have to delay purchases, use outdated equipment, find other activities to cut in order to purchase the equipment that they need. So not getting those items in the budget is pretty difficult for them. Then looking to environmental management. So EM got a number of things related to their IT software. So that includes system maintenance for the HiCap well application interface and the wastewater plan review system. They also got money for a new WPDES system to replace SWAMP. So this will deal with wastewater, stormwater, CAFO permits, make it easier for us to track and permit everything. There's money to upgrade air permit systems. We're trying to make ourselves more efficient in the permitting sphere, and a lot of that involves IT upgrades. So that money will be used for that. And then there's 2 site-specific provisions. So $4 million for the AMCAS site in Cedarburg. That's a site that's contaminated with PCBs, among other contaminants. And that $4 million will leverage federal Superfund dollars. It's about a $40 million project. So the $4 million state contribution really leverages a lot of other funding. And then additionally, $2 million for the Kewanee Marsh site. And this is a site that's got significant arsenic contamination. Things that our environmental management team did not get. This is a lot of our PFAS money would be used in the EM sphere, allowing them to respond or grant money to cities to help with upgrades and contamination cleanup. And then they also saw the bulk of our FTE reductions, with about 17 positions being lost in our environmental management division. All right, moving on to internal services. So internal services is the support group of all DNR. They make everything happen, basically. It's got our facilities and lands, our IT, our HR. There's $350,000 in the budget for a new e-grant system to maintain it. DNR is self-funding a new e-grant system, but we need funding every year to maintain it. It will centralize a lot of our grant processes for our externals and internal staff, and it requires a lot of upkeep. So we have funding in the budget to help maintain it over time. We have money for GIS server capacity. A lot of our programs use GIS for a variety of their core work, and we've experienced if everybody is using the GIS systems at the same time, we see lapses in service. So this will help us make sure we don't see those lapses. And then there's also one-time GPR funding for building demolition. And when you own as many properties as DNR does, with as many buildings, some of them get in states of disrepair, don't need to be used anymore. And this will allow us to demolish them so they don't pose a safety hazard. Something that we did not get, the governor had proposed new property asset management system funding that would help us really keep track of all the property we owned, how we manage it, how we funded it, what it's used for. Right now, our systems are pretty outdated, and that's just a product of small budgets. So this would have helped us manage all of our properties better, but that was not included in the final budget. And then finally, looking at our external services division, they've got a little bit of money to upgrade the waterway complaint system. And then also $90,000 in each year for the waterways and wetlands tracking system that needs some maintenance work done to it. One of the best things that we saw come out of this budget, there is $730 million in revenue bonding authority for our revolving loan funds. So this is the Safe Drinking Water and the Clean Water Program that fund infrastructure updates in communities. This is upgrading your drinking water system or your wastewater system. And we get a lot of money from the federal government. And then the state, through this $730 million investment, is really showing a significant commitment to these programs and making sure communities across the state have access to clean water. And then finally, DNR runs a bunch of grant programs, and we get new money pretty much every year for these grant programs. They include the Municipal Dam Repair Grant Program, which we have $4 million for, the Urban Non-Point System, and that is receiving $4 million. And then the Targeted Runoff Management and Notice of Discharge Grant Program, which is receiving $6.5 million in this budget. A couple of things we did not see. The governor had proposed increasing CAFO fees and giving us additional staff to help CAFO stay in compliance with DNR regulations, and we did not see that in the final budget. And then there is currently an ARPA well compensation grant program that the DNR is running with federal ARPA money. That money is going to run out soon, and the governor had proposed additional money and increasing the eligibility for a state comparable state program, and that was not included in the budget either. And then finally, there were a number of earmarks in the budget for specific projects, some of which the DNR will administer and we were looking to do, and some of which DNR will simply pass the funds on to another entity, and it's a project that they will complete. So these are by DNR's districts. In the Southeast District, we already talked about the Kenosha Dunes Restoration Project, which DNR will manage. And then the AMCAST Superfund site that has that PCB contamination. Again, DNR's Office or Bureau of Remediation and Redevelopment will manage that program. And then outside of that, the Echo Lake Dam project, there is a $10 million earmark for that. And DNR will facilitate getting those funds to the Echo Lake Dam project, but it's not something that we complete with our staff. And then there's also an earmark for the Lake Vista Shoreline Stabilization Project and a Browns Lake Dredging Project. Then looking to the Northeast region, I mentioned the Kewanee Marsh remediation already. That's arsenic contamination that DNR would like to start remediating. And then there's a phosphorus mitigation project for Green Lake that is funded. And then finally, in the Western region, there is a $42 million earmark for the Rothschild Dam. This is being paid for out of our forestry account. And again, this is a project that DNR administers the funding, but we don't do the work. And I believe that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Maggie. Any questions from the board? Karen.
Maggie, I thought it might just be helpful for the board for you to explain the vacancies and why those were eliminated. Because it sounds like the legislature can sometimes make the argument, oh, if there was nobody in the position, there's no work to be done. But can you really explain what's happening behind the scenes there?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is the justification we hear from the legislature. They look at our position report and say, okay, this position's been vacant for more than a year. That means you don't need it, and they take it away. But in reality, there's a lot of reasons a position could be vacant. A lot of it could be we don't have enough money to hire somebody right now. A lot of our positions, we take in fee revenue, and then that fee revenue will support a position. Our fees are often set in statute or in code and are difficult to update regularly to support the staff we need. But that doesn't mean we don't need the staff. What that means is we have longer permit wait times. We aren't able to go and inspect things as often as we would like to keep people safe and make sure everything is working properly. So when we see those position reductions, it really does correlate to a long-term reduction in work, even if the position was vacant. It translates over the long time into a lot of stuff we can't get done. And we also have trouble. So a weird thing about budgeting, when we go and write our budget for the year, we look at exactly how much a person makes. And that's how much money we get in the next year for that person. But if a position is vacant, we get a very little amount of money in the budget. We usually can't find somebody to do the work for that small amount of money. So if we hold a position vacant for 6 months, 8 months, then when we do hire somebody, we have a balance built up and we can hire them at a wage that they will accept. And these are all different budget management techniques that would leave a position vacant for a while. But it doesn't mean that there's not work that needs to be done.
Thanks.
Questions from the board? Doug?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Maggie. So the forestry one, the 1 million grant for industry-wide strategic planning, is that DNR strategic planning? It sounds like industry.
That's a good question. So it is an industry-wide strategic plan. It is prescribed in the bill who we can give this money to. We will be giving it to the Great Lakes Timber Products Association and the Wisconsin Paper Council. And that's in the text. And they will use that money to work with contractors to create an industry-wide plan, not a department-specific plan, but looking at the entire forest products industry.
And then a couple more. So the external services one, grant funding for municipal dam repair, urban non-point source, rural non-point. So is that municipal dam repair include removal?
Yes. Removals are eligible under the municipal dam repair grant.
As long as you're a municipality.
Right.
So then the earmarks by district, same questions, Echo Lake and Rothschilds, are those both dam removals?
No.
No,
There.
repairs. Thank you.
Jeff?
Could you explain to me, like the stewardship, on this, separate legislation, how that works, how that?
Yeah. So stewardship is a statutorily authorized program. And in our opinion, because it has a big fiscal impact, the best mechanism to reauthorize it is through the budget.
Right.
Which is a law. But any law could reauthorize the program. So if a senator and a representative both introduce a bill to reauthorize stewardship, passes both houses, can go to the governor to be signed, and we can reauthorize that way, just through its own stewardship reauthorization bill that is separate from the budget.
So where's the funding come from?
Yeah, so technically, any bill can be an appropriations bill. Any bill can appropriate money. Our legislature just doesn't do very many appropriations bills, but that doesn't mean they can't. They definitely have that ability.
Other questions? Robin?
Just a couple. I wanted to get back to the positions. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens is that they eliminate those position numbers. And so if you get money in the future to do the work, you no longer then have the ability to hire staff unless you go back to the legislature and ask for new position numbers, which they're often reticent to provide. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah.
So it doesn't lay off people, but it really diminishes your ability to do work in the future.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
And then can you just remind me, I think when we chatted, you gave me a statistic about that the department is operating with 500 fewer staff, but I'm not remembering what that time period is.
Yeah, so if we look back to the 2003-2005 biennium and compare that to our position numbers in this biennium, we're down 500 FTE between that, right?
Which is a significant number of workforce. Also, I wanted to just comment on the forest strategic plan. Is the goal of that to identify new markets for forest products so that the county forests and the state forests can have folks who want to use the products that they're growing?
I believe that will be part of it, yeah.
And then, too many notes. Last question. So the legislature is only in session, and I don't, for certain parts of time, periods of time. Can you kind of go over, are they in session this fall or next spring, or like, so if they were to do some of these individual bills, what kind of timing could we expect from that?
Goodness. Yes, they are definitely in session part of this fall and part of next spring. They do take time off for the holidays, for the summer, but they are scheduled to be, and they are a full-time legislature. So there is plenty of time if they have the will to pass a bill. They absolutely have that ability.
But if something doesn't happen by the end of next spring, don't they take a break for elections or
Yes,
something?
they will be largely out next summer
After
into
the
the fall.
spring,
Right.
okay. So if they wanted to do something, for them to do something that would be effective, they would need to be working on it and be concluding with it by spring of 2026.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I've got one last
Go
one.
ahead, Jeff.
I was taking notes on the stewardship, but when you talked about the separate legislation, but you're talking the same thing for the hunting and fishing and trapping license.
Mhm.
It would have to occur under separate legislation, which I don't think it'd be bad. It can be, I look at those as user fees, and I when the user is asking to increase that, I just can't understand why that doesn't happen more regular, and you've got your management plan that shows the need and the shortfall. So a habitat stamp, does that seem just crazy or I mean, a number of states do that as a way to make up that shortfall and implement your $1.6 million acres of land. It just seems, where do initiatives like that come from?
They can come from a variety of places. If interest groups have specific solutions for the Fish and Wildlife account type funding that they want to see, they should absolutely talk to their legislature or legislators who can introduce bills to make something like that happen. It can happen through the budget. The governor did propose to increase license fees, but again, the legislature does have to pass the bill in order for it to happen. We're hopeful at this point that we get our audit results back.
Right.
And the audit shows that DNR is doing a good job managing these funds, because that has been something we've been asked. Are you actually using the funds appropriately? And we're hopeful that we get the audit report. It says, good job, DNR, you are using the funds appropriately. And then that will increase the legislators' willingness to help us find a solution here.
Okay. So in the past, all initiatives to increase the like the trout stamp and those things have come through during the budget process, not through separate legislation.
That's in recent past. We haven't had a full scale fee increase in 20 years. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Patty, you still with us?
Yeah, I do have a question. I was just thinking with with a 500 FTE loss of employees over 20 some years, that's a huge budgetary savings. But we're constantly being told that, there's not enough money, but these cuts are being constantly and systematically made. And then if we look at retirements, I mean, that's constantly, people are constantly leaving. What workloads are being lost in all this? I mean, that, yes, permitting is delayed, inspections are delayed. But what is the detriment to the department because of these constant and consistent cuts in employees, especially when we in Wisconsin take such pride in our natural resources?
That's a great question. And all of our programs, right, have seen these reductions in staff. So everybody just has to do a little bit less every year that they see these reductions. And that can look like longer wait times for our permits. It can look like less habitat management. Our buildings might not be able to be replaced or maintained as well as we would like. Everything just falls incrementally more and more behind. And we do try wherever possible to find efficiencies through IT, just through reevaluating how we manage things. But we can only find so many efficiencies. So it is just all of our programs identifying what are our statutorily mandated activities and what are we doing that's extra. So sometimes that can be we're less responsive to the public, which isn't something we ever do. But if we don't have staff available to take phone calls or to go out and visit different sites, then we just don't have them. So it's across the department, just everything just gets tighter and tighter, and we're able to be less responsive, less proactive. And it just compounds over the years.
I would just as an observation, use the whole wake boat situation as to what happens when funding goes away, information goes away, and the negative impact of not keeping up on stuff. The damage that's going to be done, it sounds like, is already here. And if the legislature is expecting the DNR to take care of it, we see a problem happening and we're not taking care of it. The legislature's not doing their part to take care of it, and it's impacting the department negatively, which is not fair to those who are on the front line doing the work. I'll get off my high horse now.
Related to wake boats, I do think it's worth mentioning that the governor had included money in his budget request for additional Wisconsin-specific studies related to wake boating, and that was not included in the final budget.
Other questions, comments? I have one. I'm going to join you on your high horse, Patty, because I was going to pursue the same line of questions on it. I'm not going to go into detail. I'll just say it by summarizing. Maggie, you gave a very informative briefing and a lot of examples of how things work and how things happen. You made a statement in the middle of the budget discussion to say, well, Fish and Wildlife budget is going to be flat for the year. And I would say that's a perception. The figures tell you that. The numbers are going to be about the same, no big change, no huge loss of positions. But I go back to that longer time frame that Patty has talked about, Robin has asked about, Jeff's boring into how do we fix it. The longer time frame is there has been a steady loss of positions throughout 20 plus years in the department. And a number of those positions, hundreds of them, come out of the Fish and Wildlife account. But each biennium, it's almost imperceptible because money stays about the same. Couple vacant positions might be lost. But all the while, inflation just keeps chewing. And the numbers may be flat this biennium, but inflation's taken a chunk of that. And we can't afford to hire as many people. We're going to end up losing vacant positions again at the end of this biennium. And this steady decline is going to continue until the public does something about this. The last thing that I would like to mention is many comments are saying, what are the impacts on the department and department-owned lands and this and that? Those lands and those functions, those projects, those resources, those are public resources. The department is nothing more than a steward that takes care of your resources, your access to the outdoors, your health and welfare. And it's being affected by this gradual and slow, insidious loss of resources. In very simple terms, every biennial budget, you are losing production, you're losing work, and there's less work being done on your resources and your environment. And we need to be blunt about that. I'll get off your high horse, Patty. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Oh, I have one more for you, Maggie. This has all been focused on state budget. There's uncertainties on the federal side. Are you able to comment on that at all, where there's still some unknowns out there that could affect us?
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns out there right now that can affect us. So I'm going to give just a little overview of federal budgeting because it can be kind of convoluted and hard to follow. So we all watched as a reconciliation bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed right before the July 4th holiday. And that made a lot of changes to the federal budget. But crucially, it did not fund any of the federal agencies. That's work that's being done right now. So with the passage of that act, we don't know exactly what our budget from the federal government will look like. Right now, there are 12 different appropriations bills that are working their way through the appropriations committees in the federal Congress. As we watch those, we learn more and more about what our federal monies might look like. And for context, at the beginning of the process, the president introduced a proposed budget, and his proposed budget absolutely zeroed out a lot of our grants, which was very concerning. For context, in fiscal year 24, which is the most recent full fiscal year data we have, about 30% of our budget came from the federal government. So it's a big chunk. And the president had proposed zeroing out a whole lot of that, which is partially why we're in Madison today. But we're watching as the Senate and the House committees actually go through and do work on the bills, how they're marking them up, and they're slowly adding things back in. And things are moving in a better direction. So we're still kind of far from the finish line, and we don't know what the final budgets will look like. So we're trying to be really conservative. All of DNR is limiting travel. We're being very careful with how we spend our money, but things are moving in a positive direction, which is good to see.
Thank you. Any last questions or comments? Thank you, Maggie. Next item is 6C, overview of Wisconsin DNR off-highway vehicle OHV safety program, OHV trends, enforcement, and public outreach efforts. Lieutenant Jacob Holzclaw, off-highway vehicle administrator, Division of Public Safety and Resource Protection. Major April Dombrowski, Recreational Safety and Outdoor Skills Bureau Director, Division of Public Safety and Resource Protection. And Andreas Sedlacek, Office of Communications Director. Welcome, Jake.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, board members and Secretary Hoon, just to be here. This is an important topic. Like you mentioned earlier, my name is Jake Holzclaw. I'm the off-highway vehicle administrator. So my focus is really entirely ATVs, UTVs, snowmobiles, off-highway motorcycles. If it has wheels or tracks, that's kind of my responsibility. That's what I tell folks. But we thought it would be important to start the presentation out today just with kind of defining these machines. I think most of us are very aware that they've exploded across the state. This has become a very popular sport. And along with that, crashes have increased and injuries have increased. So sometimes ATV is kind of the generic term for these off-highway vehicles, but in Wisconsin, we do actually have two specific definitions. We have ATVs defined up here. Essentially, it's just a machine with an engine. It's less than 900 pounds, and it has a seat to be straddled on. So you sit on it, kind of like a saddle, and it just has handlebars that you move. That's how you steer it. So that's just essentially the ATV, so that we're all on the same page when we're going through this. UTV, utility terrain vehicles, they have a much longer definition. With this, little over a dozen years ago, this law went into effect where Wisconsin DNR could start registering UTVs. Some people know them as side-by-sides. There's lots of different names for them, but essentially it has to be commercially designed. It's not a golf cart. It's not a low-speed vehicle. It's not a dune buggy. It's not a mini truck. So there's a lot of things that they chose to leave out as types of machines that we cannot register. It's primarily designed to be used off of a highway. We currently have a weight limit of 3,000 pounds or less on these machines. And then it has other things that a vehicle may have. It has bucket seats, seat belts, a steering wheel. And then a roll bar, a system of roll bar members around the occupants. So that's essentially what a UTV is. And when we're going to go through this presentation, there are definitely some different statistics, ATV versus UTV and what we're seeing. But I did want to start out with just showing that this is our basic safety education standard that we have. So this is in state law. So if you're an ATV or UTV operator, you're at least 12 years old, you're born on or after January 1st, 1988, you have to take a safety course. And that safety course really covers the ethics of riding, the safety issues of riding, how to do it responsibly. And we will accept other safety courses from other states or provinces that are similar. But that is definitely something that when we're out there patrolling or making educational contacts with folks, we want to make sure that they're aware that there's adults now that need this safety course. A driver's license does not count. That does not, there are some local municipalities or ordinances that may require a driver's license, but as far as the state's considered, they just need that safety course. And then there are a couple options to take that. There's in-person classes like our hunter safety classes, and then there's also an online option for folks that can't get to a class. These are just some of our numbers that we've had. This is just last year. A lot of the data that we're looking at comes from our 2024 annual report. And there's some pretty big numbers there. I think it shows how popular it is that a little over 2,500 students were certified at in-person classes around the state, and almost 11,000 students were certified online. So definitely interesting to a lot of people. I mean, we're looking at over 13,000 students certified total, and that's just last year. Those 2,500 students, that was almost 200 in-person classes. So, and a lot of those classes are combined OHV safety classes. There'll be ATV and snowmobile. So sometimes they do both of those. So a lot of dedicated volunteer instructors that we work with. They're very passionate about the sport. A lot of them have a vested interest in it. They ride 2, 3, 4 machines themselves, and they just want to make sure that people new to the sport are doing it safely. This is where these are again some slides or some data from our annual report, and this is pretty telling. We've surpassed the 500,000 mark for registered ATVs and UTVs. That's a significant number, and one of the fastest growing aspects of that has been the UTVs. So the utility terrain vehicles are the fastest growing registration. ATVs have stayed pretty consistent, right around a little over 300,000 registrations for the last few years. But UTVs are definitely increasing. The picture that I showed was an open cab model, but a lot of these machines have heat, air conditioning, and closed cabs. They're essentially small vehicles. So very popular with folks to take out as they're not even just recreationally riding, but using them for getting the groceries or, stopping at the gas station. So people are using them for just about everything. One of the things that we have in the state is we have over 65,000 miles of legal road routes. So these are roads that local jurisdictions can choose to open by ordinance, the ATV and UTV operations. So that's a lot of mileage. That's a lot of opportunity for people to get out on the roadways. We also have a little over 2,000 miles of off-road trails. So these are going to be sand trails or gravel trails, basically maintained for ATV and UTV operation. And generally, most of those trails are not shared with motor vehicles. Those are just for ATVs and UTVs. But if you look at the numbers, I mean, we have about 30 times more road routes, mileage-wise, than trails. So potentially, most people are going to be on the roadways. And just to backtrack to show you some of the increase, if we go back 20 years, at least from back to 2004, the total ATV registrations were just over 200,000 machines. Now that's before we even had a UTV registration program. So it's increased quite a bit. Again, UTVs couldn't be registered at that time. There was a trial program, but it was met with a lot of favor. A lot of people wanted to get those out on the roadways or on the trails and be able to operate them legally. And so that's where we're at right now. So if you look at the numbers just from 2014, when we could start registering UTVs, we've had about a 6-fold increase in just UTV registrations. Very popular machines. So just going into some crash trends here, about 69% of our crashes occur on public highways and road routes. So there is a higher percentage on the roadways. There's a couple factors for this. Obviously, we have 30 times more road routes, so there's going to be more opportunity for folks to be on a roadway legally. Just keep in mind that when I say crashes on roadways and highways, not all of these roadways were legal routes. Some of these crashes involved folks that were operating illegally, or maybe minors or juveniles crossing a road and they had no business crossing a highway. So there is a few of those that come in there. The majority of our crashes, probably not a big surprise, but they occur on the weekend, Friday through Sunday. That's when most people are out and about. Very popular activity on the weekend. But what we really like to look at, I mean, safety is a huge focus for my shop, and I like to look at these percentages and see this is where we need to focus our efforts. 85% of these fatal crash victims were not wearing a helmet. So that's pretty clear that in most situations, a helmet saves lives. We've ran that safety messaging for years that helmets and seatbelts save lives. At least 21 21 out of the 40 fatalities that occurred last year, so over 50% involved alcohol. So you throw alcohol or drugs on board, you're operating one of these, it's just like a motor vehicle. It's going to increase the incident crashes. We go back to the UTV side. ATVs don't have seatbelts. I would say it's just a seat you straddle. UTVs do have seatbelts, and 80%, so the majority of those fatal crashes, folks are not wearing their seatbelts. So what we really like to focus when we're giving a safety message to people is we want to make sure that they're wearing their seatbelts or in their helmets. In Wisconsin, generally in the public space, if you're under 18, you're required to wear a helmet. So in most cases, there's a few exceptions to that, but in most cases, you're required to wear a helmet if you're under 18. That does help contribute to, safety levels for sure. When we look at our average age of our fatality victims, they're in their mid-40s. So they're basically grandfathered into that time frame where they're not required to take a safety course, and then they're also not legally required to wear a helmet. One good thing we have been seeing, I know April and I worked opening of kind of the big kickoff in the summer, Memorial Weekend for ATV and UTV operation. And a lot of people, a lot of adults were choosing to wear a helmet. So it was really good to see that. But unfortunately, we still have more folks we got to convince to throw a helmet on. This just shows some locations. The majority of our crashes are occurring on public trails or road routes, so public lands, public areas to operate. We do have a number of them occurring on private lands, but typically the public domain outpaces those quite a bit. And then that pie graph to the right, that's just another kind of breakdown as to day of week. And these are for all the 40 fatal crashes in 2024. And it just shows that it's very heavy on that weekend side of it. And so we really encourage, our staff, we encourage our partner agencies with the sheriff's departments to try to get out on those weekend days and evenings. That's when these are happening. Just shows the helmet use, really telling that basically zero on the UTV side, 0 of the fatality victims were wearing a helmet on the UTV. A few were wearing it on an ATV. Could be because there's just a lot of factors in crashes. We'd have to look at each one individually, but UTVs I would consider them generally a very safe machine. If you follow all the safety precautions, you wear your seatbelt, you wear your helmet, you keep all of your appendages and arms and limbs inside the vehicle at all times, they can be very safe. But alcohol use, again, majority of the crashes, alcohol use was involved. And then the pie chart to the right, just kind of a visual of that red section there, the largest section, that's where they're not wearing seatbelts. So again, touched on it. Safety it's the main thing that we're focused on when we have enforcement efforts or we have public events. We really want to get this across to folks that speed, alcohol, careless, and reckless operation, those are the three biggest factors in why these crashes are occurring. And then add on top of that, if they're not wearing a helmet or they're not wearing a seatbelt, that just adds to the problem. So we do have a number of enforcement efforts, and we try to do these every year, a couple times a year. And I just wanted to detail some of the folks that we do work with as well. But for our department, we have what's called a Think Smart Before You Start safety campaign. And this is a statewide effort. So we transmit this out and notify all of our recreational patrols through the sheriff's departments. We let them know when it's going on so that they can be part of it. Some of you have probably heard Operation Dry Water on the boating side. It's an effort to find intoxicated operators of boats and get them off the water. This is a very similar effort, just with ATVs and UTVs. This year, our plan is to have it over Labor Day weekend. Unfortunately, last year we had a very tough Labor Day weekend. There was a lot of injuries, several fatalities over the weekend, and it's kind of that last big holiday of summer where people are going to be getting out there recreating. So we want to make sure they're being safe. So part of that is just also proactive patrols to just be out there, be a visible presence. Our squads are marked, our ATVs and UTVs that we work off are marked so people can see that we're out there. They can see that we're out there working. And a lot of times, I think that truly does deter some bad behavior, that they just see that we're out there. But then, of course, there's some people that do need to be stopped and talked to. So one of the other things we're doing currently, this is ongoing, and it's in progress, is the administrative code under NR 64. We're currently working through an update to that code. And so if there's any areas in there that are safety related or equipment related, we're trying to address those within our scope of authority, so to speak, in the code. So there are a lot of things in this world that they're just state law. It's statute. We can't really touch that. But with code, we can work through it a little bit. One of the really exciting things is the grants for the sheriff's department patrols. So these are, last year, 38 different sheriff's departments applied for grant funding. And the last couple of years, the Wisconsin ATV Association, one of our partners there on the bottom of the sheet, they worked to push for an increase for that patrol funding. So it really just spreads that work effort around the state, because we simply don't have enough wardens around the state, to cover everything. And that's a force multiplier when we have sheriff's departments helping us out with that safety effort. And so, yeah, the last couple of years, it was actually, there's $1.3 million that's prorated amongst those 38 or 40 patrols. And that's based on patrol time, how many hours they've worked, citations issued, things like that. But if we look at the last 5 years, it was a little over $4.6 million that we've been able to basically, from registration funds, move toward our recreational patrols. So it's a really good to have that coordinated effort, have that assistance with those folks. And then we also have a number of non-law enforcement partners. So the Wisconsin ATV UTV Association, known as WATVA, they've been instrumental for pushing forward and trying to get new and improved safety legislation on these machines. They love these things. They ride them on their own time, and they also have a trail ambassador program where they have folks that work for them and just kind of make, consensual stops with people and contacts with people and saying, hey, how's it going? Do you need help on the trail? If somebody stops and at a gas station and they notice maybe a child's not wearing a helmet, they'll go up to them and just talk to them about that and advise them of the law. So really good partners to have in that effort. We try to do as much public outreach and education as we can. Later in the presentation, Angie was going to cover some of the communications that we have out through social media and things like that. So I'm going to kind of breeze through that. But we do have a lot of in-person presentations of Farm Tech Days. That was a big event up here in the northeast part of the state just last week. And we try to get wardens there, try to spread that safety message. We'll actually have machines set up and so that they can see what they are. And there is a ton of questions that I fielded about little kids and helmets and how do I put a kid in one of these machines safely. So really good to get that out there and speak with those folks just in the public. A lot of different campaigns. Wear It Wisconsin, kind of a two-pronged approach. You want to wear your helmet, you want to wear your seatbelt. So it works for both. And we also, I already covered the grants for the sheriff's patrols, but one of our other partners here just in the last couple of years is MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I think most of you have probably heard of that organization. They have a lot of passionate folks that work for that group focused on stopping intoxicated drivers. Typically, 4 or 5 years ago, the focus was more on the motor vehicle world, but especially in this area, kind of the upper Midwest and some surrounding states around Wisconsin, they have become very interested in the wrecked vehicle world. So we've been able to partner with them. They've seen the issues in boating. They've seen the issues in snowmobiles, ATVs, UTVs, and just a really good partner to have in that. There's also the Ride Safe Foundation. This is basically a nonprofit that was started by a lady who lost her 11-year-old nephew in an ATV crash in northern Wisconsin several years ago. And their primary focus is school education. So literally going to a school or schools and getting 2,000 or 3,000 kids together and spreading that safety message. And that's not just for off-highway vehicles, that includes the boats and everything else. So really, we try to get involved with that as much as we can as well. And just getting that message out to those kids, because I think sometimes that's an area that's unreached, or there's children that what we're seeing is a lot of these injuries are occurring from children that are going to, say, grandma and grandpa's house or a parent's house, and maybe they're not really recreationally riding in the public space. They're just riding around the farm or the property, and then that's when these injuries are occurring. So we think that this is a really good way to try to spread that message. Chief Kruger was actually just, I believe it was last week at the Badger Sheriff's Association, and he was sharing our efforts with them. They're very supportive. The sheriffs around the state really appreciate what the wardens are doing. They love the work that we're doing. And so it was really encouraging to have that. And of course, that grant program helps, right? So that's money that they can help pay for their staff, their hours, their equipment. And in recent years, it's been over 80%. Basically. So they'll submit at the end of the season, they'll submit how much they spent on their patrol efforts for ATVs. And to get about 80% of that paid for, that's huge for these sheriff's departments. So one of the things we did a number of years ago was actually a crash test with a medical college over in Milwaukee. So it involved an old UTV that wasn't functional anymore. It wasn't really safe to drive, so to speak. And we did some slow motion camera testing. There were dummies set up in that machine with sensors. Maybe more to come on that, because when that occurred, it was right before COVID hit. And pretty much all of the data that we wanted to get from that down the road kind of came to a standstill during that time. But as far as we know, we may be one of the only ones to have actually done a crash test like that, where there's a large recreational vehicle striking a pole. So potentially some more data to come out of that. And I am going to probably answer questions on my presentation before Andy starts hers, if that makes sense. We're on the same slide. And so, yeah, appreciate any questions you guys might have.
Any immediate questions of Jake? And then I suggest we move on to Andy, because the two kind of tie together.
Perfect.
There may be some follow-up questions that apply to both.
Sounds good.
I've got a bunch,
Robin?
but I'd like to wait until after I hear them.
Perfect.
Okay.
I can wait till after 2.
All right. Thanks, Patty.
I
Jeff?
just got a quick one. So a lot of these accidents are happening on public roads and stuff like that.
Yes.
Are they required to wear seatbelts when they're on public?
So the seatbelt requirement applies to passengers of the UTV, kind of a unique loophole. But yeah, so every passenger on a machine, not necessarily the operator, is required to wear that seatbelt. And that applies to public and private. space. So the way we've looked at that is it's either domain. So.
Okay, let's hear the communication side of this issue and then we'll circle back to questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Andy, you're up.
All right, I'm here. Can you hear me and see me?
We can.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Thank you, Chair Smith. Good afternoon, everyone. Members of the board, thanks for having me again. I'm Andy Sedlacek, and I'm the Communications Director for the DNR. As part of this off-highway vehicle overview, I wanted to share with you how we talk to the public about recreational vehicles to educate them on safe and legal operation in Wisconsin. So we will start with our communications efforts in early 2025. So if you remember all the way back to January, snow was pretty scarce around the state. So instead of getting on a snowmobile, Wisconsin residents and visitors often turned to their ATVs and UTVs, which in turn caused us to shift our messaging from when we traditionally talk about snowmobile safety to rec vehicle safety. Then it also turns out that people were taking their rec vehicles out onto the ice. So in January and February of this year, 5 of the 7 rec vehicle fatalities included vehicles breaking through the ice. So our law enforcement staff stressed that ice safety messaging was really important at that time, which you can see in the releases we published in January and March. So that is on the left and the one in the middle. Then looking forward a bit to May, we did a plug for safety education classes ahead of the busy summer season, which is the release on the right. I can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Into the summer, we then shared news on the grant funding available to organizations to apply for funding to support their safety instructors and volunteer trail ambassadors, which Jake mentioned. Then we hit safety messaging again ahead of the Memorial Day weekend, which, as Jake also mentioned, is a really busy time for rec vehicles out on the trails. Next slide, thank you. Ahead of the 4th of July, along with our own news release with safety reminders on the left, we created a toolkit to share with partner organizations, which is the screenshot in the middle. It was full of social media posts, photos, and a video PSA featuring Jake, of course, to make it as easy as possible for our safety education instructors, partner law enforcement agencies, and municipalities to share safety messaging with their audiences. Then a toolkit with the video PSA and photos was also shared with the media to again, make it as easy as possible for people to talk about rec vehicle safety. And that is a screenshot, the media advisory on the right. The next slide, thank you. Those efforts resulted in pickup from some major media outlets in Wisconsin, like WPR and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, as well as lots of local pickup, which is incredibly important for us. Next slide. Thank you. Partner organizations also used our toolkit to amplify the message, which is really great, as it helps spread the word to people who possibly don't follow the DNR on social media, watch their local news, or would read like the DNR's news releases. So these are examples from the Wisconsin ATV UTV Association, or WATVA, which is a close partner of ours, the Kenosha County Medical Examiner's Office, and then the Hartford Township Police Department. Next slide. We, of course, had our own social media messaging, which we tried to be really strategic about, because if we post about this topic or any topic too much, we risk our audience getting message fatigue from seeing the same thing over and over and ignoring it outright. But of course, if we never talk about it, our 270,000 Facebook followers and Nextdoor audience of 1.2 million will never see it. So it's a really delicate balance to make sure we are talking about it in just the right amount. We try to mix up the focus of each one. So starting on the left, that post focused on taking a safety course. The next one with the red UTV was a helmet and seatbelt reminder, which we learned from Jake is a major safety issue we focus on. Then the post with the man smiling is from Nextdoor and is just a general safety message we published ahead of the 4th of July. And then finally on the right, which is a little bit tricky to see, that is an Instagram post focused on safety for youth riders. And it actually talked about how we had reached a milestone of like 10,000 youth had completed a rec vehicle safety course, which is a really great milestone. Next slide. Thank you. We also share safety messaging directly with the public in our social media inbox. So here are 2 examples of messages we've received on Facebook regarding wrecked vehicle safety. So what we've learned from messages like this is that people want to do the right thing and be safe on their wrecked vehicles. And learning how to do that through sending us a social media message is just one way to do it. And we can't do this without the help of Jake and his team, because they're the ones who are helping us understand what is in the regulations and how we can share it accurately with the public. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have a few more ways we share wrecked vehicle safety messaging, and one of those is our website's homepage. So this is our homepage right now, and with one of what we call the homepage tiles dedicated to the Ride Safe, Ride Smart slogan. We also covered safe riding in the winter 2024 issue of Wisconsin Natural Resources Magazine, which came out in December 2024. It was part of a whole editorial package on winter recreation. And since ATV and UTV riding is becoming more common in the winter, it felt like a natural addition to the package. Next slide. Thank you. And then lastly, we are about 1 month into a paid campaign with Quick Trip. So this means that 15-second ads will play at Quick Trip gas pumps all across the state until November 30th, plugging the key tenets of wrecked vehicle safety. So helmet and seatbelts on, check your speed, and ride sober. Other than the voiceover for the ad, everything was done in-house by DNR staff, and we're really proud of this public safety effort, as it's been on our wish list for a while. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to share our agency's communications efforts around wrecked vehicle safety. And then I'll hand it back to Jake. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy. Very comprehensive briefing. Hang on, we may have questions for you as well as Jake. Board questions, comments?
I have a gazillion.
Yeah, I know.
I know you've got a pile of them.
But I have one quick question for Andy. Andy, this is Robin. I'm curious about your messaging. It looks to me, and it might just be that this is what you put together to present to us, and that there's a lot that's not here that we're not seeing. But if 69% of the riding is on roads, I don't think you have any photos in your messaging of these vehicles on roads. They're all on trails. And I'm just wondering if there is a rationale for that, or if it's just that that's what you picked here because it's prettier for us to look at. I just am curious about the visuals on that.
Yeah, that is a great observation. It just so happens that the photos that we have in our collection are primarily photos taken on a trail. We do have some that are like on a roadway, but we try really hard to portray the season that we're in social media and news releases. But that is a good call, because we every season trying to look for ways to refresh our imagery. So that is a note to take back to our team. So thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I guess I'll start
Go ahead,
with
Rachel.
some of mine. Do you have it broken down on what part of the state a lot of these accidents and fatalities, like county by county, and then kind of what the local ordinances are in relation of where they're allowed to drive? In my county, it's all lettered roads. And I was at our Conservation Congress meeting last night, and the warden addressed this, and it was brought up that we would be having this presentation today. So just diving a little bit more into kind of how
Yeah.
those local ordinances are impacting.
No, absolutely. Great question. We'll start with the kind of the crash locations. I think that was the first part. They're really all over the state. We do keep track of that. So a reportable crash is a crash that requires treatment by a physician. So if somebody basically needs more than a Band-Aid and it's not just property damage, they do have to record or report that crash. The operator, if they're able to, is also supposed to complete an operator report. So we do have data to show that. I'd have to break it down. I don't have a map specifically where everything's pinpointed, but if you look at it, it's a real smattering, kind of a shotgun around the state, because just about every county in the state now has road routes, and there's not as many counties around the state that have the trails. So with the majority of the crashes happening on the road routes, it's just kind of all over the state. There is, potentially some, it used to be that more of them were in the central part of the state, the northern part, but it's kind of all over now. So we do see some hot spots around like the central part, Black River Falls, Jackson County area that has a very big trail / route system. And then there's also some areas up north that, people specific, maybe they live in Wisconsin or they're traveling out of state and they travel way up north. They want to see the Northwoods. And so there is some things happening up there too, but it's kind of hard to pinpoint just one bad area. And then as far as the ordinances, that is, we do have, if they send us a copy, like they're required to, we do have that. So we have record of all of the ordinances that have been sent to us around the state. And again, we're not involved in that ordinance writing process for those municipalities. So we're just basically required to kind of house those, be the record keeper, so to speak, at a statewide level of those ordinances. But like you said, numbered highways or lettered highways, they can choose to do that. The county can say, yep, we're going to write an ordinance and open all of these roads to ATVs and UTVs, or maybe all of the roads from county roads down, county roads, town roads, those are all open. Typically with state highways, if the speed limit is more than 35 miles an hour, they have to go through the DOT and get some kind of approval there if they're going to do a trail crossing or some kind of a use over a bridge or some more specific use on a state road, because there are higher speeds involved there. DOT is involved in that, but that's typically all of the ordinance work and the route work. That's local jurisdictions that do that, and then we can enforce it or try to watch for those safety issues.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Yeah, the boating ordinances all have to be run through the
Correct.
DNR, but
We have review authority for boating, but not ATV. Yep.
Other questions?
I
Let
have
me
a couple
check in with
questions.
Patty.
Yep. I have
Go
a
ahead,
couple
Patty.
questions. When looking at the stats that you showed us, it's clear that behaviors are the top contributors to the fatal crashes. Do you have OWI data on?
Yeah, so I actually have some from that same report from 2024. I have the top 3 citations issued, and OWIs were number 3. So out of the citations issued last year, and this is all patrols, so this is wardens and sheriff's departments, or even, police officers, if they write a citation for this, 415 illegal highway operation citations. So that's the number 1. Number 2 were helmet issues. So 387 of those, and then 239 OWI citations. So it's good to see that those are up there, that people are being educated / written a citation for helmet use and then the OWI use. But obviously it's not good to see that the numbers are that high, that there's that many people out there doing that. But yeah, that's the data that I have just from last year.
Okay, then my follow-up, how much time is involved by an investigating DNR officer in a fatal crash from the start to court?
That's a very good question. It really depends on the crash itself. The more complex the crash, the more difficult it is to try to find the data that we need to do that crash investigation. So there could be a crash where it's, maybe one person on an ATV was intoxicated, missed a curve on the roadway route and hit a tree. And essentially that is the most basic synopsis for a lot of our crashes. That crash it's still going to take hours of investigation, time to get there, time to just make sure that we're covering every aspect of that crash and making sure that it's complete. But then we get more complicated crashes where there could be criminal charges involved, where perhaps the operator killed a passenger somehow, or there's drugs or alcohol involved. It can take many, many hours. I mean, you could have 30 or 40 hours into a crash investigation. So, I mean, there could be a lot of time spent in those. We do have a team in the state that is tasked with trying to tackle a lot of those more high profile and tougher crashes with the recreation warden team. But there's just about every warden has been involved in one. And then of course our sheriff's departments are busy investigating them as well. So yes, many, many hundreds of hours around the state, if not thousands of hours involved in crash investigation.
And that's also, with all them hours of work, that's hours of work that you can't be in the field.
Correct. Yep. Tied up on the crashes. So, it's definitely an issue for sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Other questions? Robin?
Okay, so, and if anybody else has more questions, interrupt me because I've got a number.
Do we need to take a break before you get started?
No, it's okay. I'll try to be really fast. Just want to make sure that there's an understanding. Do any manufacturers of ATVs or UTVs recommend that these be ridden on paved roads?
No. Yep. They're all recommending off-road use only.
Okay. And are there any air emission controls on these vehicles like there are on automobiles?
No, there's going to be just spark arresters in the exhaust so that legally they're required to have a U.S. Forest Service approved spark arresters so that there's no issues with forest fire. But no, they don't have the same emission controls as a motor vehicle.
Okay. And then there was some discussion about municipal ordinances. Are municipal ordinances, can they be more restrictive than state statute in terms of allowing 12-year-olds to ride 55 miles an hour on a county highway?
So yeah, great question. They can be more restrictive. They can't be less restrictive. So they can't. So if the state says a 16-year-old in a UTV can operate on a roadway with a valid safety certification, they can't say, well, a 14-year-old could do it or a 12-year-old could do it. So they can't be less restrictive. They can't open the floodgates, so to speak. But there are some municipalities that have created driver's license requirements for people operating on the road. They've open intoxicant. That's another one. Insurance is another one. So there are some municipalities that are requiring a local ordinance to cover some of these other areas. And we think that they can do that. I mean, it's they have the ability to make those ordinances.
Isn't there a clause though that says that the local ordinances have to be in strict compliance with the state statute?
There is. Yeah. Yep. There is. So it's one of those things we don't have the review authority for those ordinances. So if somebody calls me and says, hey, I am the, chair of this county board and we're looking to go through this ordinance, what we always tell them is exactly what you said, strict conformity. Whatever's laid out in chapter 23.33, please follow that as close as you can. And then it's not gonna, because there's potential. It's if they choose to do that and add other rules and regulations, that's their choice. We kind of stay out of that. So.
Okay, so sorry, I'm getting close
No,
to the end.
go ahead.
With respect to OWI,
Yes.
that's a different statute than driving a vehicle. And so when you drive a vehicle and you have multitudes of OWIs, you lose your driver's license and you
Correct.
can no longer do that. So instead, what you can do is get on your ATV and ride.
Yes,
low.
great observation. It is a bit of a loophole. So according to state law, any of your wrecked vehicles, they do not affect your driver's license. So if you get an OWI in a boat, ATV, snowmobile, it does not go on your driver's license. First offense is a civil forfeiture, so it's not a crime. Second offense and above would be a crime. But again, you don't lose your license. I have heard of some local judges imposing something where they said basically, you can't drive a ATV or a UTV for a year if they're found guilty for the intoxicated operation. But as far as the state's concerned, no, that's not a thing. The other thing to note is that those different wreck vehicles don't talk to each other. So if you get a boating OWBI in July and you get a snowmobile OWBI in December, those are two separate first offenses. So they don't coordinate together either. So
And neither one of those affect your motor vehicle driver's
Correct.
license. And if you lose your motor vehicle driver's license, it doesn't affect your ability to drive
yeah, a driver's license is
recreational vehicle,
suspended or revoked. You can still drive a,
even though they're right out there on the public roads mixing it up with everybody else.
yes, correct.
I think my last question. So, getting back to safety and my understanding that 12-year-olds can operate these vehicles under supervision.
Correct.
Is there a road test that's required, a safety road test, since these are not recommended for use on paved surfaces? And you can explain better than I can, but I think it's because of the suspension of them. Or
Yeah, lot of factors. Great question. Yeah, there's no hands-on road test, so to speak, that's required. What we really try to when we're talking about it in our safety classes and when we're messaging out in our social media and things like that, we really try to encourage folks to have a responsible mentor or somebody who's been involved in the sport prior to really talk to these kids or adults, not just kids, even an adult that's never been on this machine before, and just walk them through that process and make sure they know how to operate it safely. And just a clarification, 12 to 15-year-olds are allowed on a roadway, but they have to be accompanied by an adult. So there has to be an adult either on the same machine, if it's a ATV designed for two people, or on a separate machine, basically within ear or eye shot of that juvenile. So again, the ages 12 to 15, they cannot operate by themselves entirely on the roadway. And that also, they can only operate ATVs. They cannot operate UTVs. So UTVs are set aside only for folks 16 or older. There are some exceptions to that for small UTVs and small ATVs, but that gets a little bit more convoluted. And again, those are anybody under, no matter what size it is, they're not going to be allowed to go on the roadway. So yeah, if they're under that age.
Jake, when you say public roadway, does that also apply to trail right-of-ways, public trail right-of-way roadway? Or just motor vehicle traveled roadways?
Yeah, we've looked at it as that paved surface. I mean, there is the right-of-way, like the ditch line. They still would not be allowed to operate in that technically, but that varies for whether it's 33 feet or whatever, depending on the town road or the state road. If they're on private land in a private field, kind of is what it is. But yeah, I mean, we do run into issues with folks trespassing, kind of in that ditch line or crossing culverts and things like that, trying to navigate around.
Would enable them to operate then on a frozen lake or on a trail specifically designed for ATV, UTV.
Sure. Yeah, they can. Any age is allowed. I mean, 12 or older is allowed on a frozen body of water. There's other rules like helmets and safety that still have to be followed, but that's an open area. Really, anybody can operate any motor vehicle out there on the frozen water. So,
and just an observation, I'm sure it must be horrific for you and your fellow wardens to come across these crash sites. So I just want to say that thank you for the work that you do, for the safety messaging that goes on. It's unfortunate that we're seeing such increase in accidents, and I'm sure it has an impact on just, emotional health. So thanks for what you do, and I'm appreciative of all the messaging that you're doing to try to make these things safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Robin covered most of the stuff that I would have asked anyway, so you didn't waste any time at all. I have one final question, Jake. On some of these loopholes, like the OWI one, the difference between wrecked vehicles and motorized vehicles, is somebody working on trying to close that loophole and reduce the risk that's associated with it?
Well, there's been some efforts in the past couple of years, but sometimes it always depends on if the legislators want to move forward with things. So, again, WATVA, Wisconsin ATV UTV Association, they are kind of the lobbyists for those increased safety efforts. And so talking to those folks, they would love to see that go through eventually. Something we're going to continue to work on, keep educating folks, letting them know that, yes, folks are out having fun. It's fun to ride these machines. They're a great tool as well if you're using it for hunting or farming. But we really got to make sure that we're doing it safely and responsibly. So we'll continue to do what we can. So,
Jake, in our discussion, pre-briefing before the board, you made a point that really stuck with me, and you mentioned it earlier, but you may want to comment on that. The importance of parental influence or mentor influence, particularly on younger kids. Once you get out of the public right away, things on private land are pretty much wide open.
Yes.
And there is no safety structure around them in terms of officials or enforcement or anything. It comes right back down to the family. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's a great comment. I mean, we really want to make sure that folks are getting trained up and doing it safely. Unfortunately, that's where we do see a lot of our injuries for youth is on that private land arena, or maybe, crossing a road when they shouldn't have been crossing a road. So ultimately they're on a machine and the adult isn't watching them or supervising them. So yeah, it is really important because one of the things that isn't covered in state law is properly sized machines. So there's ATVs of all different sizes, engine sizes, the size of the frame. There's ATVs built for younger kids that they're going to be able to fit on a lot safer. They're going to be able to maneuver it and handle that machine a lot better. They're rider active machines. And by that, we mean that when you're operating an ATV, you really have to shift your body weight, try to help steer that so that it's safe. Because if you don't shift your body weight, something I didn't touch on, I guess, but the low pressure tires, I think you alluded to it earlier. Low pressure tires, the suspension is exactly correct. They have a high center of gravity. They're designed for off-road operation. And so there really is some training and some mentoring involved to get somebody up to par to operate one of those. And then on the UTV side, they have low pressure tires as well, higher center of gravity, and then a steering wheel. And so sometimes I think folks forget that this isn't a normal motor vehicle. They drive it on the roadway legally, but you have to anticipate your stops. You have to anticipate your turns faster. And with the lower pressure tire, they tend to trip and tip easier if they're taking those turns too fast. So, yeah,
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Any final questions for Jake or for Andy? Okay, thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Very informative briefing. Next item on our agenda, item 7, Department Secretaries Matters.
Great. I have some retirement recognitions to present to you. Unlike other times, I've asked the team to put together a little bit more background on these particular people so that I could tell you a little bit more about them, because they have had amazing careers here and I wanted to respect that. The first is Tom Gillis from Wildlife Management. He had been at the DNR for 44 years. He started at the State Game Farm on January 11th, 1982. During his time at the game farm, Tom was part of several important wildlife management initiatives and state game farm milestones. Stocked over 2 million ring-necked pheasants during his time at the game farm, which is incredible. Participated in the capture of wild Iowa pheasants and rearing of chicks for a Wisconsin F1 research project from 1987 to 2002. He helped construct over half of the 112 outdoor pheasant pens on site. He assisted with the upgrade of 200 plus smaller chick rearing houses to 2 new brooder barns. He drove feed trucks to over 100 day-old chick clubs when the state still supplied feed for this project. He also fought wildfires in Yellowstone National Park with the U.S. Forest Service and participated in prescribed burning for our wildlife management program. He trained as a deer sharpshooter during the first 3 years of chronic wasting disease eradication strategy. And over the 44 years Tom has worked at the game farm, he's raised his kids, married his wife Carla, coached boys high school basketball, was an election office official, and a cancer survivor. The knowledge he gained through the years, he has passed on to the next group of game farmers. We're really lucky to have his skills and dedication in the wildlife management program. What an amazing career and life. Meja Maka is from the Community Financial Assistance Program. He had been here for 32 years. Started with the DNR as an LTE in 1985 before taking a full-time position in 1987 in CFA. He worked in several different roles, but served as environmental loans project manager for most of his career. First retired in July 2020, but came back to the environmental loans program as an LTE in 2021 to assist with the workload resulting from the bipartisan infrastructure law. Over the total span of his career, his efforts led to the award of more than $640 million in funding to improve municipal water infrastructure, which is also incredible. He's particularly grateful for the opportunity to have such a long and fulfilling career with the DNR and for the opportunity to learn and work with many great coworkers and customers. In retirement, he looks forward to traveling to see wildlife, providing tutoring in algebra and economics, spending more time in his garden, and giving back in any ways he can. And the last retirement is Dale Rezebek, a water regulations zoning specialist of 13 years. Dale was a DNR shoreline specialist for over 11 years after working 2.5 years as a WIPD's permit drafter. Prior to that, he spent 24 years as a hydrogeologist in the environmental consulting world. Dale chose to come to the Waterways program because he heard it was difficult work. Not one to shy away from a challenge, he jumped right in to help local governments implement their shoreline ordinance standards that facilitate sustainable land use while protecting sensitive resources. So just a really wide variety of expertise and a longstanding career. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the folks that have chose to retire, unfortunately, but are moving on to some amazing next steps. And Robin, I don't know if you wanted to make any comments additionally.
I was just gonna I'll make a motion to approve the retirement.
Great.
We don't approve retirements.
We
Otherwise,
recognitions.
nobody would.
We recognize it.
We could say, no, you can't go.
Wish.
Robin, you could frame that as a recognition of the
Okay.
retirement.
So yes, I would
Thanks.
approve the recognition of retirements. I'd like to do an amendment, though. I think Mage's total years was 39 and not 32. So if we could correct that, that would be great. And I was just going to comment that I was fortunate to spend my last few years in the agency supervising Meja, and he's just a phenomenal person. It's just really heartening to have more information shared at this point in time where we can really hear what the accomplishments are. So
Yeah.
So anyway, I make the motion to approve with that correction to Meja's years of service.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. We got a motion to approve recognition.
I'll second it.
Second. Patty seconds. Any further comments? Doug?
Yep, thanks, Sherry. Just congratulations to those three, and thanks for the background. That's helpful, but again, appreciate the service.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second to approve recognition of the retirements. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Acts of the Department Secretary, Real Estate Transactions.
Any questions on the real estate transactions? Great, thank you.
Hearing none, we're on to Department Secretary's matters, remarks.
I'll just say again, thank you for your time, but really thank you for your willingness to share in sort of our federal funding uncertainty. I really appreciate the partnership here. I know it's hard for everybody, but I think you hear every time you come to a board meeting the amazing work that happens throughout the agency, and protecting those people in that work is really incredibly important to me, and I know that it's important to you. So just thank you very much. I'll turn it back to you, Bill.
We'll move on to item 8, board members matters. 8A is approval of the 2026 Natural Resources Board meeting dates. I'd like to comment that we had feedback from a couple of board members that our April of 26 date, which was proposed for the 8th, created a conflict with the spring election cycle. And we have some poll workers on the board that very much want to be able to continue to participate. So we've done some informal vetting of dates with people to see if there was an alternative, and it seems that April 15th of 2026 would be a viable alternative to the 8th. So with that, are there any other comments about the schedule?
Thank you for making that adjustment.
We haven't made it yet.
Oh.
Doug, go ahead.
So the to be determined ones are obviously potentially going to be out of Madison meetings. Are we going to try to keep the out of Madison locations that we didn't get to?
I think that would be a very good starting place with Black River and Sturgeon Bay, Door County. And just put it in context with whatever else is going on at the time. We may get redirected to something that is a higher priority then, but there's been a lot of staff work done on them. They had very good agendas and proposals together. That'd be a good place to start.
Yep, thank you.
Any further discussion on next year's schedule? Anyone care to make a motion?
Why are you looking at me?
I just,
I'll make that,
starting-
Mr. Chair. I'll make that motion to accept the 2026 meeting, Natural Resource Board meeting dates and locations with the change to April 15.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the suggested schedule with a change to April from the 8th to the 15th. Is there a second? We have a second from Robin. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We have a new schedule. Next item on the agenda is board member matters. Patty, you're first on the list. Anything for board member matters?
Yes, for board member matters, I just want to reiterate that I appreciate the fact that we're taking the conservative approach with the budget to not go to the two sites. But I also want to make sure that everybody is in agreement that the importance of these out of, in-state meetings really helps us as board members do our job. So I don't want to see that go away permanently.
Well
That's it.
stated. Thank you. Robin?
Yeah, thanks. And I really appreciate the suggestion to next year's, if we have the funding to go to these sites, to go to Black River Falls and to Sturgeon Bay, because I was going to ask if we could integrate some of what we were going to learn into meetings throughout the year, but we don't have to do that if we're going to go there next year, because it all sounded very interesting. I just want to locally give kudos. There's a group called Sustain Our River Coalition of various agencies, which is working to promote and help secure federal funding for the Upper Mississippi River Restoration Program. There have been a number of long-term research studies that have gone on in terms of invasive species, sedimentation, water quality, where they no longer have the funding. Those research activities are stopping, and it's really important from a scientific perspective to maintain sustained research for those areas. So I appreciate the fact that I think DNR participated, as did a myriad of other organizations, and hopefully that'll have a positive impact to assure that the Upper Mississippi River continues to be a great place for habitat, fisheries, and recreation.
Thank you. And Rachel, you're next.
All right. I guess I've got a few things here. I also attended Farm Tech Days, and the DNR had a really nice presence and a nice big tent. It was actually the first booth I came across, so I was able to interact with a variety of the staff. And then I spent the day some traveling around and at the NRCS Demo Farm Network booth and a few others. What was their Progressive or Partners Pavilion, had a lot of the conservation groups that I'm affiliated with. I was also fortunate enough to run into a few of my local Conservation Congress members as they were volunteering and driving around on the UTV, and they let me know that there was a district meeting last night. So I attended that meeting in Winneconne ahead of coming down here. So I didn't get into town until about midnight last night. But it was really valuable for me to go to that district meeting. They definitely expressed their gratitude. We were able to get some updates from the fisheries, the wildlife, as well as the wardens. And then, the leadership gave an update kind of with a general theme of, the civic engagement, attending meetings, encouraging other people to kind of spread that message. One of their Member Matters participants emphasized, going into schools, that schools are really open to having people come in and talk about conservation. And he offered to do a presentation for anyone else that wanted to go in and talk about duck hunting or fishing or whatever it was. Oh, and it was also really nice to see the staff interact with, those, Conservation Congress members. Many of those are lake associations and the other groups, and, just that relationship and partnership there. And a couple other things that kind of came up too was, and this came up in my CDAC meeting too, the Hunt for the Hungry program, which the staff said, the DNR can't be the ones that facilitate that program, but there's a lot of interest, and they were really promoting for some of maybe the counties to partner together to figure out how that program could work out. That's kind of, I guess, it from that. I also had the State Natural Resources Conservation Service leadership team out to my farm yesterday, and was able to give them a tour of my operation and talk about the conservation and habitat work I do out there, which leads me to an event that I'm hosting on September 13th. It's a partners party, really showcasing all of the great work that the different agencies as well as the nonprofits that I work with throughout the state do. So it's called Grass Stock, a celebration of conservation and agriculture. We'll be promoting it soon, but there's going to be a field of discovery where I'll have Audubon, I have a whole list, Audubon, Xerxes, NRCS, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Ducks Unlimited, my county Land and Water, DNR is invited, Pheasants Forever is going to be raffling off guns. It'll be a really fun event that'll also be very educational, and that outreach to let kind of the general public know what great work so many people are doing for conservation in our state. So stay tuned. All are invited. There'll be camping and music and a lot of fun.
And food?
And food trucks, beer tents, tie-dye station, each of those organizations is tasked with having a fun interactive activity. So scavenger hunts, and like I said, it's really either we'll do a wagon ride tour as well as self-guided tour with the soil pits. Audubon will talk about grassland bird habitat, the principles of managed grazing and how that benefits our soil and water, all of those things. So I will be extending an invite out to the rest of the board as well as the general public to share as well.
Sounds like lots of good stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Thanks, Rachel. Next is Doug.
I'm not doing as much as Rachel.
You squeeze some
Good luck.
sleep.
The usual thank you to DNR staff for all they do. It's always encouraging to see everything that's being done and have the folks here to access them, and some in follow-up. So some of my past issues folks are following up with, which is helpful, and I was grateful for that. So that's a good thing. Thanks, DNR staff. One thing that I just wanted to mention was in the recent week or so, the flooding issues that occurred throughout the state, really, but really in the southeast got hammered. I mean, everybody saw what happened in Milwaukee and saw some of the impacts to the DNR's operations, parks. It's substantial. Those kind of events are getting more and more frequent. It tells you a lot about our climate and what's happening. And a real reason we should focus, and I know we are, on climate change and where we're going with that and how to plan for it. It's a real thing. So those kinds of events just are stark reminders of what's happening in our environment. The other one is a letter we received July 27, kind of dated now. Nancy Stencil, Rib Mountain, wrote a letter of concern and request about the Greenlight Wisconsin LLC prospecting permit project. The one in particular she mentioned was Medford Park Falls. And her concern / request was public informational sessions, and a request to have joint sessions for the public between DNR and U.S. Forest Service. She wanted sometime in August, which may actually be gone by. But those are good things to point out for us. That prospecting in the north is going on, and Greenlight is leading that. There's some to the south of that area as well that's occurring. So we should pay attention to that. And Greenlight, there was prospecting proposals and permits generated. The last I heard from somebody that came and reported in our part of the country was the state was 200 and some comments generated just on the prospecting permits. So those are substantial. Those aren't even anything to do with any mining permit or mining related activity yet. So we could figure if we're not thorough with the public now, that's just going to increase when and if those other permit processes begin and Greenlight starts actual mining activity. So that was her request. Don't know if it went anywhere, but that was on July 27. My last one is I had planned on Waterfall Expo attendance, the one in Oshkosh coming up, and we actually have a family trip planned that same week, so I'm gonna have to cancel that one. Unfortunately, I was looking forward to it, but we're out of town, so that's it.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Jeff?
These are hard acts to follow. I was motivated after Jeff gave his deer management talk a couple weeks or last session about the surplus deer we have, and thought I would look into ways of getting that surplus deer into food pantries is how I first started. What my first thought was, but it's a complicated issue. It really is, and not unique to Wisconsin. Other states are having issues with too many deer, and so I've been meeting with some groups. There are some groups out there trying to harvest that extra deer and get it into food pantries, and met with the Monroe County CWT task force, and they're really on top of it. I'm not trying to invent anything, but I'm trying to learn from other states and try to bring it back and help the groups that are trying to get something done better execute their plans. So
You may want to connect with Tammy Ryan, Division of Fish Wildlife Park. She's been working on that issue for the last several months. Be a good discussion.
Yeah,
Eric, I see you're here. Be another good point of contact for you.
Thanks.
Any more?
No.
Okay, that comes to me, and I had a whole long list, and most of it's all been covered by. Oh, we started with Patty. Thank you, though. Keep an eye on me. I had a big long list, but it's been mostly covered by things that popped up under open forum and informational items. The only thing I'll say is that it's hard to project ahead, but our next meeting is late September, and we're going to have a number of our fall recreational seasons up and running before we meet again. I would just send out a reminder to everybody to get your licenses and your safety training in order, and wish you good luck with your fall season, and probably be able to see you again and hear more about that in September. And our September meeting is not going to be in Sturgeon Bay as it's scheduled on the board calendar, but we're bringing it back to Madison for those same fiscal reasons that we heard about today. So that's it for me. I think we're at a point where we can ask for our motion to adjourn. If anyone cares to offer that.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Rachel moves adjournment, and I think I hear a second or at least agreement from Patty.
Correct.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all.